All right, I'd like to call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for Thursday, November 3rd. If everybody please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I had to give you an extra.
A little extra loud for me tonight, too. I appreciate that. All righty. And roll call?
Yes.
Member Vanderhayden,
Present.
Member Hubbard,
Here.
Member Garza,
Here.
Member Peters,
Here.
Member Estrada,
Here.
Vice Chair Benedict,
Here.
Chairman Miller.
Here. All right. And Director Tice, do we have any changes to the agenda?
No changes to the agenda, Mr. Chair, but I would like to acknowledge that this is Chairman Miller's last meeting at the Planning Commission, and thank him for his service and all his contributions to the community and to the commission. So, thank you, Robert.
Yeah, thank you. You guys finally get rid of me now.
No comment.
That's right, no comment from the other commission members. All right, everybody get a chance to approve the minutes or review the minutes from last meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
I move to approve the minutes from last meeting.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, so first up, for those of you that maybe haven't come to a commission meeting in a while, we have started a consent agenda. And so the items listed with an asterisk are considered routine matters and will be enacted by one motion and one roll call vote by the commission. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a commission member or a member of the public requests it to be removed from the agenda item. And so at this time, I will open it up to either the commission and or the public. Is there an item that would like to be removed from the agenda, or the consent agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to remove E2.
E2,
DSA 22-00136.
okay. And any other items? Anybody from the public? All right. So with that, we'll take consideration for the remaining consent agenda items.
Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve consent items E1, E3, E4, and E5 as
Second.
presented. Sorry.
I have a motion and a second. Shall we please call the roll?
Member Vanderhayden,
Yes.
Member Hubbard,
Yes.
Member Garza,
Aye.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Member Estrada,
Yes.
Vice Chair Benedict,
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. All right. And with that, are we doing this one first? E2 first? Yeah. Okay, perfect. With that, then we will go into the public hearing portion. So at this time, for those of you, staff will present the agenda item. Commission will get the opportunity to ask questions, get any additional clarification. Once that's complete, we will invite the applicant and or their representative to come forward. Once that's complete, the commission will get the opportunity to ask questions of that applicant that's representing the agenda item. Once that's complete, if you're here from the public, we will give you the opportunity to speak on that agenda item. If you have questions, just know you may not get them answered while you're standing at the podium, but we will do our best to get you an answer before a motion is taken with that agenda item, because we may have multiple people speaking, so we'll take note of those and then bring up the appropriate party once the public portion is complete. So with that, we will start with the first agenda item, which is to consider a request by Blue Stem Partners for a major site plan, DSA-22-00136.
Good evening, Commissioners. Blue Stem Partners is requesting a major site plan to allow for the development of a 728,000 square foot industrial spec warehouse, generally located north of Peters and west of Florence Street. You can see it highlighted on your screen there. Here's an overview of the site plan. You can see the building elevations. All access currently for this Phase 1 portion of the project is going out to Peters Road. The reason it's being pulled tonight is primarily from a comment letter from residents nearby that is concerned with truck traffic going along Choo Choo and Florence Street, Choo Choo Road, as you can see on the screen there. So we're going to concentrate mainly on that issue this evening. In discussing the matter with the Public Works Department and our traffic engineer, there are some extenuating circumstances at the current time that Thornton Road is under construction in association with the Lucid facility. So from Peters to Selma right now, Thornton Road, I believe, is closed. So that may be adding to some of the traffic at the current time. And also speaking with them, we do have the ability, the traffic engineer of the city has the ability to make Choo Choo Road and Florence Street potentially to have no truck traffic on it. So we can post signs with no truck traffic on it. I think what we discussed today with Dwayne Itel of Public Works is that we kind of like to see what the actual issues are, maybe do some traffic counts, and see how severe the problem is before we jump to a conclusion of limiting truck traffic to Florence and Choo Choo. There is a second phase of this project that will have some access to Choo Choo and Florence Street. However, that's mainly going to be employee traffic and cars, and their main truck entrance is still going to be located along Peters. And we think once the Thornton Road improvements are completed, the trucks will go out towards Thornton Road and north or south from there. And I believe the member of the public that brought this to our attention mentioned that it's primarily Walmart trucks right now, which makes perfect sense because the distribution center's right there next to where the construction is going on. So I hope that outlines the problem and kind of what we think might be the logical solution, but I'm open to hear if you guys have any questions or concerns that go above and beyond what I've covered.
Any questions from Commissioner? Member Beck?
That guy, yeah.
I'll get there.
Thank you, that was great. I'm sorry if I missed it. Is Thornton Road is under construction north from Peters?
It's south of Peters.
South of
Right now, it's currently from Peters to Selma is the
Okay.
primary
All right, I
location of the
apologize.
construction. There will be additional Thornton Road improvements that are happening north and south of that section in the coming years as well.
Sure, yeah. We hope those continue to be needed.
And there's some big facilities going right there, so.
Any other questions for staff? No? Do we have an applicant and/or representative who'd like to come forward? Yeah, please come forward, state your name.
Speaking to
Thanks for being here this evening. Appreciate you coming.
Good evening, council and the public. Thank you guys for having me. I'm James Isom, partner at Bluestem Partners. Joe, I think you covered the majority of, what we would have liked to have discussed. Currently, right now, our site plan has two access points. There you go, off of Peters. And that would be where the truck would be, trucks, and actually, in this case, the public or employee parking as well would be routed. Our understanding from our traffic impact analysis that the EPS group did for our team is that most of the traffic will indeed come along Thornton Road, perhaps east-west, and Peters down to Jimmy Kerr. But most of that would go north onto Thornton. and then route onto the Maricopa Highway up to I-10. This is a spec industrial building, so we do not have a known user at this point. The attraction for us for this project is with a lot of the end-user-driven manufacturing in the area. We think that there's a supplier base that's underserved and is in need of space. And so we hope being in close proximity to Lucid and some of the other end users in the area will be a benefit for those teams. Any questions?
Any questions for the applicant? Awesome. Thank you again for being here this evening and giving us your input.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
And then at this time, I'm assuming I can open it up to the public. It's not technically, it's consent agenda, so it wasn't listed as a public hearing, but I can open it up to the public, since that's the point of it. All right, just getting legal permission, guys. All right, so at this time, I'll open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Yeah, please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Andrea Hines. I'm the one who sent the letter in about the truck traffic. My house is 18 feet from the street. It's terrible noise all the time. And I'm also worried about like phase 2 and what it's gonna do with all the cars and the people. Some of them cars nobody follows the speed limit on that street, and I think that needs to be addressed. They fly up and down that road like they're on a racetrack. I've been in my house since 2019, and when I moved in, there was very, very, very few trucks that came by. Now there's at least 30 to 40 a day and night, and it gets really loud. My other point is, I heard that they were going to widen Florence Street, and that's only going to make it worse. And I don't know where they're going to get land from, because like I said, I'm only 18 feet from the street now, and I get kind of worried about that. And when they build phase 2, you know, the vultures sleep over there at night. They're always across the street in that field, and that's where they spend their nights. When you guys build up something there, there's not going to be any green space for them anymore. And I was wondering if maybe you guys would consider putting in some kind of a green space for the animals. I've seen cougars over there and a lot of things, but nobody's considering any of the animals that are around. And the people who have to live there with the noise and my house value going down, it scares me. I mean, I'm not a young person anymore, but if my house value goes down, what happens to me? So if I would like signs put up that trucks can't use Florence Street. Right now, they come down Florence, they turn on Ash, and they go out that way. And maybe that is to miss the construction traffic, I don't know. But it's all day, all night, and it's really loud. So that's about all I wanted to say.
Okay. Thank you for coming this evening.
Okay.
And anybody else from the public? Okay, I will close the public portion and bring it back to the commission. I guess my only comment would be, I think, from the presentation, hopefully staff is going to send out their traffic engineer or somebody from staff to start to monitor that, and probably something, your input will help kind of, they'll go in, do semi-counts, and I don't know if you want to speak to that a little bit and just kind of touch base on that process and then what would be the next steps. Welcome, by the way.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. And thank you so much for coming down to the council meeting. I do appreciate your input. Moving forward, we'll try to take an effort to have a traffic count, which we don't have at this moment. Once we have the count, then we can assess the situation and evaluate and let the council know what should be the next steps.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Thank you.
And I know we've got some good relationships, so it might be even just once we get a count, there might be some conversations that could be had potentially with those employers as well, and working with And so hopefully what we can do is, if you stay in contact, I think that, hopefully we'll be able to come up with a solution for you. Because we don't want it to be, we want it to be safe for everybody, but with construction, I think is probably heightening it as well. And so hopefully that'll be alleviated. Okay. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. So, and I think as part of your traffic study, you guys can kind of take a look at that as well, potentially. Is this the appropriate speed limit, or is there anything that we need to do to, just for safety purposes, right?
We can take
Obviously.
a look at it.
Yeah. Awesome. So thank you, and thank you for being here this evening.
Is there a limit, like, to how heavy a truck can go, like a weight limit down that road?
So in that code section that we talked about, I believe 7,000 pounds. So it would limit anything over 7,000 pounds.
Okay, okay. I know. I'm in trouble.
All right. Commission. I would entertain a motion.
Take turns. Sure. Well, I had pulled it and with concerns, with those concerns and hearing her concerns and watching that road, that street, and I was baffled that a truck would want to go that way. Thank you for clarifying might be going on. That would be, that'll be helpful as improvements continue to be made. It sounds to me like that's going to improve that situation. And we are certainly all hoping that the continued expansion of employment opportunities in the community will not hurt yours or my, our home values and all, and that we can, maintain what we've all worked for and paid for. So with that long comment, I'd like to move to approve DSA 22-00136 major site plan with the technical corrections and conditions as listed.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Michelle, please call the roll.
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Garza?
Aye.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Benedict?
Yes.
Chairman Miller?
Yes. All right. Next up, hold a public hearing to consider forwarding a recommendation to the City Council for a request by the City of Casa Grande Planning Department for a minor amendment to the Casa Grande 2030 General Plan, DSA-22-00205. Be presenting two at a time? All right. And we will also be hearing DSA-22-00217. So just note, we will need two separate motions.
All right, so staff is requesting the Planning Commission forward a recommendation to City Council for a minor amendment to the Casa Grande 2030 General Plan to change the roadway classifications from minor arterial to major collector for DSA 22-00205 is Clayton Road west of Burris Road and east of Ethington Road, and DSA 22-00217, which is Choo Choo Road, Florence Street that we just discussed, north of Peters Road and south of Ash, so it's in the exact location that we were looking at. You can see it highlighted here, the two requests and the locations of those two requests. Again, just highlighted a little bit closer on Clayton Road, it's between Ethington and Burris. These are this is associated or close to the Kohler facility and the CCP facility, the Cheng Chong facility that we've approved earlier this year. And then again for Choo Choo, I north is going to the right on this, so you can see Choo-Choo's up to Ash from Peters. Quick overview of the minor arterial. You can see it's 110 feet of right-of-way. We also have 2 potential cross-sections for major collectors, one that takes it down to 3 lanes with a center median, and one that takes it down to 4 travel lanes with no center median. This amendment is to ensure that the city is coordinating the transportation network to meet the projected traffic volumes associated with the new and existing development. It is good practice to ensure we are not under or over designing or constructing the transportation network. Among the reasons that we're requesting this amendment is the first is carrying capacity. So staff finds that the carrying capacity of the major collector is adequate to handle anticipated traffic volumes for both of these areas. Number 2 is the driveway spacing. So major collector roadways are less restrictive regarding driveway spacing and will be beneficial to the industrial development proposed for the area. Number 3, it results in more developable land for the landowners. And number 4, it reduces roadway construction and maintenance cost. In looking at the review criteria for a general plan amendment, we cover a lot of criteria. Much of it wasn't really applicable to this request, but these 2 are specific for this request, and the first is describing how the proposed amendment enhances or has no net impact on mobility and traffic congestion. So this amendment will ensure we are planning for appropriate road classification and not allocating unnecessary resources to constructing an overbuilt road network. Kind of covered that in some of the reasons before too. And number 6 is describe in detail how the general plan goals or action steps are met. So goal CTM1, when considering changes to the land use or transportation elements of the plan, the city will consider the relationship between land use and need for supportive transportation infrastructure. And goal CTM2, the capacity of the city's transportation system will be in balance with the planned and current land uses. So we're evaluating that at the same time. And then CTM6 is to reduce the city's cost of construction. As we mentioned before, this will save on maintenance cost and construction cost. I do also want to point out that this is in the same area that we just talked about before, and changing down to the smaller road of the minor collector also is going to reduce speeds in that area for that roadway in the grand scheme of the overall built roadway network. So in regards to public notification, we did actually receive a comment from Pinal County that they reviewed the proposed changes and they did not have any concerns. Coming to the recommendation, staff recommends the Planning Commission move to recommend City Council approve the minor general plan amendment, DSA 22-00205, to reclassify Clayton Road from a minor arterial to a major collector. And I'll go to the next one after this.
Questions for staff? No? None? Right turn lanes? Nothing? Sorry. All right. Well, you guys are the applicant, so appreciate your presentation. At this time, then I'll open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to speak to this? No? I thought you guys were all here for this one. Ah, man. All right, well, then we'll close the public portion, bring it back to the commission.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion, please, to consider forwarding a recommendation to City Council for a request by the City of Casa Grande Planning Department for a minor amendment to the Casa Grande 2030 General Plan to change the roadway classification for Clayton Road from minor arterial to major collector. And That would be under DSA-22-00205.
All right, so I have a motion.
Second.
There you go, and a second. Forward a recommendation of approval. So, any discussion? Will you call the roll?
Yep. Member Vanderhayden.
Yes.
Member Hubbard.
Yes.
Member Garza.
Aye.
Member Peters.
Aye.
Member Estrada.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Benedict.
Aye.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. I had to split the yeses and the ayes. Sorry.
So, the next one is, James just pointed out my typo there, so please disregard that this is 205. This is actually 217. So the staff recommends the Planning Commission move to recommend City Council approve the minor general plan amendment, DSA 22-00217, to reclassify Choo Choo Road, Florence Street from a minor arterial to a major collector between Peters Road and Ash Avenue.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Oh, all right.
That
Member
we
Garza.
forward to City Council an approval of the minor general plan amendment, DSA 22-00217, to reclassify Choo Choo Road, also known as Florence Street, from a minor arterial to a major collector between Peters and Ash, as presented.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second to forward a recommendation of approval. Any discussion? I just want to thank you in your presentation for having the directional north in your slideshow. Sideways. I like it. I appreciate that. So with that, would you please call the roll?
Member Vanderhayden.
Yes.
Member Hubbard.
Yes.
Member Garza.
Aye.
Member Peters.
Aye.
Member Estrada.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Benedict.
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. All right.
I'm just going to put it right here.
Next up. Oh, where are we at here? Hold a public hearing to consider a request by United Engineering for the following land use and approvals for Marabella subdivision, DSA -22-000133 and DSA -22-00193.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. So Marabella has been in front of you a number of times through the years. And this presentation deals with a preliminary replat and a subdivision variance. So a little bit of background. Marabella is approximately 104-acre planned area development located south of McCartney Center. Recently, there was a zone change, or a PAD amendment, I should say, placing 25 acres highlighted in the dark blue to medium-density residential development to accommodate a future build-to-rent site. And then the remaining 79 acres remains designated for a single-family neighborhood, complying with the 2021 PAD residential design standards. Now that they have their PAD amendment approved, they're moving on to the next steps to submit for a preliminary plat for this area. The preliminary plat is comprised of 251 single-family lots and one lot for the future multifamily use. And then the preliminary plat also accomplishes things such as the layout of future rights-of-way, drainage, landscape, and open space tracts, and utility easements. Then I'm also going to be discussing a subdivision variance. One of the blocks within the pre-plat is identified to be longer than the maximum length allowed by code. 600 feet is the maximum length, and they're requesting 971.21 feet. When reviewing the criteria associated with preliminary plats, these are the various criteria that we look at, and the staff report goes into each of these in more detail, but I want to focus on the three highlighted. The first is conformance with the PAD zoning. So When reviewing the preliminary plat, they are providing for all of the requirements within the 2021 residential design standards, which is comprised of no lot is less than 50 feet wide. All of the lots are at least 5,500 square feet. A minimum of 25% of the lots do meet the 6,500 square feet requirement. In fact, I believe the staff report mentions 30% are at least 6,500 square feet or larger. And they are providing actually in excess of the minimum 20% open space requirement. The next criteria that I want to talk about is utility access. So firstly, with regard to water specifically, Marabella does have existing certificates of assured water supply for 281 lots. At the time that they submit their final plat, we will require certification of this to be provided. There was preliminary water and sewer reports that were reviewed by our development center engineer staff and found to be acceptable. Because the existing sewer line in McCartney Road is nearing capacity, it wasn't going to be able to be used to collect the wastewater from this development. So as a result, they're proposing to run a sewer line from the southern portion of Marabella over to Peart. That requires them to get a sewer easement from the adjoining property owner. And there is a map of dedication in review at the moment providing for that 20-foot wide sewer easement so that a sewer line can run over to Peart to act as a relief line to McCartney for this subdivision. With regard to access to and adequacy of public roads and infrastructure, Marabella has multiple ingress and egress points to the street network, primarily the extension of Palomino Parkway. South of McCartney, it becomes Hennis Road, which will continue to the southeast and tie into the existing Hennis Road to the south. Tucker Road to the far east is identified to be dedicated as right-of-way, and ultimately, as development happens to the north between McCartney and the Marabella neighborhood, the idea is to extend Tucker. And then also Arizola Road on the west is going to be dedicated for right-of-way for its future extension to the south. Due to the amount of planned rooftops in this area, a traffic impact analysis was provided and reviewed, and it was determined that at the outset of this development, a traffic signal would be needed at the corner of McCartney and Palomino Parkway. Based on the fact that there is some beginnings of warrants for a traffic signal there already, it was to determine that the developer's fair share for the cost of this traffic signal is 24%. So one of the recommended conditions is that 24% of the cost of this traffic signal be provided by the applicant, and the city will construct it. Another access point is planned onto McCartney other than the extension of Palomino, and that's a local street to the east. And one of the conditions of record is that this, or recommended conditions rather, is that this access be limited to right in, right out. And the means of providing that right in, right out would have to be reflected on their public improvement plan when they go forward with the final platting. And it would have to be in a manner acceptable by our city traffic engineer. Another necessary item for this subdivision is the need to provide an additional ingress-egress point for emergency purposes on the far east end of the site. And so what's proposed is to run an emergency access road following the old Hennis, or otherwise Tucker, road section line up to McCartney Road. And the condition associated with this has been slightly modified since the staff report. It had indicated that the road needed to be installed prior to plat recordation, and we've modified that. The easement has to be recorded prior to final plat recordation and installed prior to the first certificate of occupancy or its equivalency for single-family homes. Another recommended condition is that, as you see, there's a little bit of a notch there by the white circle. A parcel that's not being contemplated as part of this preliminary plat dips into the Marabella subdivision somewhat. And so one of the recommended conditions is that an access easement for this out parcel shall be granted by the time of final plat approval, unless the property owner of that area provides something in writing stating that this access easement is not needed. And then the last aspect about the public roads is that Brent Street, running from Palomino Parkway east, does exceed the maximum distance required in our code, or allowed in our code, of 600 feet. And so this leads to their second application request for a subdivision variance. Now, I know you've seen a number of block length requests, but per City Code Section 12.300.A, Planning Commission can make a recommendation to council to approve a variance to the subdivision standard, and City Council can entertain the idea of allowing a longer than 600-foot long block, so long as certain criteria are addressed. And I just kind of wanted to walk through what's going on here. So as you see from an excerpt of the pre-plat, there's multiple conflicts through Brent Street. So you have a drainage channel that cuts across the street, north and south, and then you also have a couple of areas of retention basins provided, identified in green, and then also the area marked trail. They're running a regional trail through this area, but it follows the Kinder Morgan gas line easement. So it's difficult to come up with additional street crossings in this area when you have the drainage channel and the gas line easement, etc. But with the presence of the drainage channel and the gas line easements, there's lots of breaks in this block, which would otherwise be accomplished if there were actual streets. So even though this is a longer than normal block, the feel of it should feel relatively short, because there'll be breaks between the homes by these open space and easement gaps. And then also the applicant pointed out that the code requires that you can have 12 times, no more than 12 lots, or the minimum lot width allowed times 12, and in this case it's 600. And when you assume that that would mean 12 homes on both sides of the street, you'd have a block with 24 lots. And because of so many different easements and planned drainage channels, there's actually only 21 lots on the street. So it's basically accomplishing the what you would find on a code compliant block. And then also I did want to mention that where the pipeline trail crosses Brent Street, they are planning a chicane, so that will help slow traffic, one of the concerns that you get on a longer than normal block. And I know there had been some questions about providing more examples of chicanes. This is actually in downtown Scottsdale. It's a commercial area, so it's not quite apples to apples comparison, but this is on Main Street between Marshall and Scottsdale Road. And you can see where the curbing jets out into the right-of-way, narrowing the roadway, which should slow traffic. And I do have a couple of other examples at the end if you were really interested in chicanes. And those are the 21 lots that I was referring to. Regarding the notification process, the public hearing notification efforts met that which is required by code. There was no inquiries or comments as a result of our notification efforts. So there's two recommendations. Planning staff does recommend that Planning Commission approve the pre-plat, subject to the conditions found in the staff report and that modified condition that I mentioned regarding the emergency access road. And then Planning Commission, or Planning staff also recommends that Planning Commission move to forward to City Council a recommendation to approve the subdivision variance. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff?
Chairman, I have a question.
Member Garza.
Jim, I was just wondering what consultation's done with Kinder Morgan surrounding the gas line, and there's lots that are right on the edge of the easement, so I want to ask that question.
Sure. So I know that the applicant has been in conversation with Kinder Morgan, and we have reached out to them in the past as well. And, you know, just a little bit of background on this, because I know you're fairly new to the commission. This has been, iterations of this pre-plat's been in front of Planning Commission and in front of Kinder Morgan a number of times. And actually, just most recently, they had identified a new review concern that hadn't presented itself before. So they kept me, they being the applicant, kept me in the loop between they and Kinder Morgan, and demonstrated that Kinder Morgan was satisfied with the resolution of their concern. So they are aware of the lotting and its arrangement of streets crossing the easements and the proximity to the homes to the gas line.
And they're allowing for the trail inside the easement?
Yeah.
Okay. And then just my second comment is just the access onto McCartney, the right in, right out in the future needs to be enforced with some sort of, you know, measures other than striping, just for our traffic engineers' benefit. Because people are going to make that left-hand turn, and it's not going to be pretty.
Any other questions for staff? No? I'm just going to piggyback on Member Garza's in regards to the pipeline. Do they submit, do we record something that shows that there's an agreement there, that everybody's good, or they sign off on something? Do they have, like typically with other utility companies, you know, development with Arizona Water's got some sort of thing running through it, they have to sign off on it? Does Kinder Morgan also do that? Do you know?
Well, so I will say that this is not fee simple owned property by Kinder Morgan. It exists as an easement across the Marabella property, so I know that changes some of the terms, but nonetheless, there's terms and conditions associated with that gas line easement that would determine where and how that trail can be laid. But I don't personally have the answer of how we verify the sign off from them. Perhaps the applicant can elaborate on that, or another staff person on what type of proof we get from Kinder Morgan that they're okay.
All right. Anybody else?
Who's, Jim, whose responsibility is the trail? Is that county?
So the trail will be installed by the applicant, and then usually how the trail system works is the concrete path itself would be maintained by our community services department, but it's going to be sitting in a landscape tract or easement maintained by the Marabella HOA. So likely it'll end up being kind of a hybrid where all the green space will be HOA maintained, but the hard surface will likely be a city's responsibility.
Thank you.
In regards to sewer capacity, or the sewer easement that's needed, what's the as far as capacity on PERT with other potential developments, some that are coming that we've approved, I think further, what is it, south on PERT, but as well as many other vacant lots or properties currently in their potential development in regards to just sewer capacity. I know if McCartney's already maxing out, what does that look like for other potential developments down Pert Road?
Well, Cesar may be able to expand on this, but I know that the primary concern was McCartney, as well as that stretch of the sewer line that goes from McCartney to the just shy of the Kinder Morgan gas line. From the Kinder Morgan gas line south, the line is wider, or where there isn't as much discharge at that point, and so it could accept and accommodate more discharge from the Kinder Morgan gas line south on Pier. So the sewer analysis did take into account, and I'm certain that our development center reviewed what other projects were in the works and how those were going to be contributing to this line. Ultimately, there'd be a finding that if it wasn't adequate, an additional sewer line would have to be provided, but this project didn't trigger that requirement.
So, if I understand the chair's question, you're wondering whether or not the new sewer main that's going to be installed in that 20-foot sewer easement, is it large enough to handle more than the sewage from Arabella? Can it handle other properties? Is that your question?
I'll say somewhat twofold. One, I did have that thought. I didn't specifically ask that, but it was more from PERT. So if you looked at Marabella and you said east of Marabella, there's potential for development, right? Or sorry, west of it.
Yeah.
Between Marabella and PERT. And that would dump into PERT, right? And so are we providing, I'm just trying to understand capacity-wise, because if we say, hey, we're going to fix this because McCartney doesn't work for you, but PERT does, but then later PERT doesn't work for the next person, where are we going to send them?
Got you. So there is a main in Peart from McCartney down to where this new sewer easement is being created. So there is a main there. So that one question is, what kind of capacity is in that main between the sewer easement and in McCartney? And the other question is, how much capacity is in that sewer main in Peart south from that new sewer easement down to wherever that main's going, right? So we could either ask Cesar, our development center engineer, that question, if he knows anything about the capacity of that main in Peart, or we could ask our city engineer who's sitting here. So Cesar, do you know anything about the capacity of the main in Peart?
No, Paul. I think Public Works will be the one to determine what is the existing capacity of the sewer line along
Gotcha.
Peart.
So our city engineer is going to come tell us about capacity of the main in Peart.
I'd figure out a way to get you up here tonight.
If I could still tap dance, so. So we have a sewer master plan for the entire city. And in that master plan, we're looking at all the different pipe sizes, and we have potential flows from vacant land. What will that land most likely be? So we have a good plan, and I can't tell you the exact capacity in there, but I can tell you that according to our plan, we're okay with further development in that area.
Okay.
There are some parts of town where I might not say that, but in this case,
Okay.
and we're really
I don't know if that
working,
makes me feel better or not, but yeah, all right.
and we're working real hard. In 18 to 24 months, we'll have most of the sewer problems around the city solved. So
Okay,
that help?
We're good for now.
sounds good.
Okay.
Any other questions? Nope. All right, then I'll bring up the applicant or their representative. Welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Chris Morgan with United Engineering Group. I'd like to start off by thanking Jim and the rest of the staff for your hard work and help in bringing this project back before you. And I'm happy to answer any questions, including the sewer, if we want to start with that.
You can start wherever you want. It's your show right now.
As the city engineer mentioned, the sewer master plan shows the area bounded by Tucker, McCartney, and Pert, all sewering southwesterly to the line that's in Pert. So that 15-inch line that's there is sized for, granted it's based on zoning, but it is sized for all the anticipated development of this area. Further, we're working with the property owner just north of us in obtaining the access we need for the emergency access up the Tucker alignment. We're also working with them to get them access into our sewer line as well. So the whole area should work. The property west of us will have multiple connection points straight to Pert or south to that line that's in the easement as well. So.
Okay, awesome. Any other questions for the applicant?
Can you speak to the coordination with regards to Kinder Morgan, the gas line?
Yes, we met with them very early on, discussed some of the preliminary designs. Their big concern is usually crossing their easement at a 90-degree. Obviously, they're very concerned about utility crossings, so they go through a full review of any of our utility plans crossing it. I believe the comment Jim was referencing, that's the recent changes we're currently working with them on the angle of a couple of these roads. As you can see from the property, with the shape of the property, some of the notches that are missing from it, Hennessy's alignment and the gas line. We're doing the best we can to cross them all at 90, but we are working with Kinder Morgan. As for the pipeline trail, one of the comments we got from them was they want as much hardscape as possible outside of their easement. So if you look at the map, most of the hardscape that's within their easement is right at road crossings where there's already going to be sidewalk ramps and everything else. A lot of the open space we've got along there, we've pulled the hardscape out into, as Jim mentioned, the HOA maintained areas. So regardless of who has the maintenance of that at least accommodates Kinder Morgan concern that their trucks don't have to worry about driving over sidewalks or anything like that except for the crossings of those main streets.
And do they, through that process, do you guys get like a formal approval sign off?
I know we do from the utility plans. I don't know if we get a formal sign off from them on the final plat. I imagine we're gonna have to get something from them though. I apologize, but I don't know exactly what that is going to be.
Sounds good. Any other questions? No? All right, thanks for being here this evening. Appreciate it. At this time, then, I will open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Seeing nobody, I will close the public portion. Bring it back to the commission. Don't jump all at once, okay, everybody? Calm down. One at a time.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion, please.
Member Peters.
I'd like to recommend that preliminary replat for Marabella for 251 single-family lots, parcel for future multifamily use, budding right-of-ways and easements, and drainage and open space tracts, DSA-22-00133, recommended for approval.
I'll second.
So I have a motion and a second for approval with the added modification from this evening as well. Any discussion? Hearing none. Call the roll.
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Garza?
Aye.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Benedict?
Aye.
Chairman Miller?
Aye. Just to split the vote again. All right, next up, we have a, you're
Wait a
gonna
minute.
recommend the next one. I know. Yeah,
What was your question?
I'm just waiting for commission to,
Oh, You were looking straight at me.
No,
so.
no.
I was like, I don't think
Sometimes you present it like, hey, so on this one, staff's recommending approval, right? So I was looking at you in case you were gonna go that direction, but if not, I'm just waiting for them to make a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you. Somebody's being proactive in this meeting.
Okay. Just one comment before the motion, though. This is multiple times that we've run across these variations for longer street lengths than the 600 feet. In this case, it appears that there are several factors that are going to positively reflect this being approved. I believe somebody said it was 900 feet, up to 900 feet for this, but the way that it's situated and the way that the developer laid it out, I don't see that this is going to be an issue. We've dealt with these chicanes so many times, although we've never seen one before, but I've heard they do exist, so, but, and they are functional and they do work, so. With that being said, I'd like to forward a recommendation to the City Council on a subdivision variance for a block length identified within the proposed Marabella preliminary replat for East Brent Street, which is longer than the maximum length permitted by City Code 600 feet. This is under DSA-22-00193.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Was it Strano over here?
Okay, thank you. My head was down.
That's all right. No discussion. Roll call?
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Garza?
Aye.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Member Estrada?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Benedict?
Yes.
Chairman Miller?
Yes. I don't know if you guys are catching the whole aye, yes battle we got going on here, okay? Just in case. Gotta keep things lively around here. All right, next up. Public hearing to consider forwarding a recommendation to the city council requested by Scapegoat on behalf of Post Ranch 589 LLC for a zone change, DSA-22-000183. One of these is missing a zero or has an extra zero.
There's too many zeros.
On my agenda? All right, 00183. Mr. Gagliardi.
Okay, so this evening I'm going to be giving two presentations. The first one pertaining to Post Ranch. The first one is a zone change request from a portion of the Post Ranch planned area development zone to R3, which is one of our multifamily zone districts. A little bit of background about Post Ranch. It's a 647-acre planned area development zone district located on the east side of town. It's bounded by Overfield and Toltec Buttes to the west and east, and Early Road and Florence Boulevard to the south and north. Within that 647 acres, the way it's currently laid out per the approved land use plan is there's about 53 acres that allows multifamily development and up to 796 multifamily units. The request, as you can see here on the screen, the areas outlined in yellow are those multifamily areas. The request this evening is to amend 22.05 acres of the PAD and revise it to R3. So currently that area is designated in the PAD as high-density residential, which allows a maximum of 16 dwelling units per acre. And then the request to R3 would be more of a medium-density residential, allowing a maximum of 12 dwelling units per acre to comply with our neighborhood's general plan category density limitations. But the presentation after this one will pertain to another zone change of 567.71 acres I outlined in purple. That was submitted via a separate application to rezone that area to R2. And then there's two areas on the east and west outlined in red that are currently commercially designated, and that is not changing. Those will remain part of the Post Ranch PAD. When looking at the R3 zone, development of this site would be subject to the R3 standards. Just going to give you a quick rundown of what that entails. So R3 allows multifamily structures, which would be comprised of 3 or more units. The maximum height is 35 feet. You have to provide a minimum of 10% open space. And then additionally, there's so much outdoor living area per unit that has to be accommodated. Staff is recommending 2 conditions associated with this R3 zone district. And it has to do with the fact that there is both planned and proposed single-family areas abutting this R3 site. So the recommendation is that no structure greater than 1 story nor taller than 28 feet is allowed within 50 feet from a property line that's shared with a single-family designated area. And then also there would need to be a setback of at least 20 feet provided next to a property designated for single-family land use. And that's just to help with the compatibility between multifamily and single-family areas. When reviewing zone changes, it's subject to meeting 3 criteria, and all 3 criteria pertain to compliance with the general plan. And as you see outlined here, it's all in that yellow color, which is our neighborhood's general plan designation. Within the neighborhood's general plan, R3 is listed as an appropriate zone district. And you can have density greater than 4.5 dwelling units per acre on sites up to 25 acres in size. And then these are the 3 criteria that have to be evaluated when considering zone changes. The first criteria is that the action is consistent with the city's general plan. So one of the goals found in the general plan is to encourage variety in neighborhood design and development patterns. And an action step to meet that goal is to provide a variety of housing choice for all income levels, generations, and household demographics. And so this multifamily area is considered ideal for its location next to Florence Boulevard, and it will serve as a good transition between the single-family areas that lie to the east and south of that, and the highway to the north, which is Florence Boulevard. And then there's 2 specific guiding principles that I want to discuss. The first one comes from the land use plan number 4. It talks about increasing the range of housing choices and products available to all members of the community. And so this multifamily area will offer a housing option for those not seeking traditional single-family homes. The next guiding principle I want to discuss is linking all land use decisions to known available water resources to ensure long-term viability and environmental sustainability for all new growth and development. So staff's thoughts on that is, since even this multifamily area has certificates of assured water supply specifically for condos, we do encourage that the applicant consider this area to be condominiumized, because rented or leased development where multiple units are contained on a singular parcel can be developed on property that does not have certificates of assured water supply. So there is an opportunity here to provide a housing choice, being condos or townhomes, not readily available in many other places throughout the city. By utilizing the certificates of assured water supply, this would help direct growth in the spirit intended by this general plan principle. And then another criteria that I want to talk about is the rezoning conforms to the general plan if it proposes land uses, densities, or intensities found within the general plan. So basically, because this area is larger than 20 gross acres but smaller than 25, it would be allowed to have a maximum gross density of 12 dwelling units per acre. And then also, the proposed zone change is considered necessary and proper at this time. So while Planning Commission and Council have considered numerous sites throughout the community to allow for multifamily development, this site already has this entitlement. It's already designated in the PAD for multifamily. And so because of this, it meets the need for housing while not poised to be a potential surplus, which has been a concern from time to time. Regarding the notification efforts, we followed that which is required by the code. There were no comments or inquiries made. So the recommendation is that Planning Commission move forward to City Council a recommendation to approve this zone change from a portion of Post Ranch PAD to R3 with the following conditions of record, which have been outlined in your staff report and on the screen here. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff? No? All right.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion.
Oh.
Not yet.
No, you can, but not yet. You gotta hold on to that one. Dang. Legal, we get mad at us, there's no public hearing, we'd be in all kinds of trouble. That's right, we'll get you a shot in just a minute here. Applicant and or their representative here joining us, wanna come up, speak to this agenda item? Welcome, thank you for being here this evening.
Did you want your presentation up, Jason?
We can wait for the next one.
Okay.
That's fine. Jason Hadley, 7507 East McDonald Drive, Suite 2 in Scottsdale, Arizona. Thank you, Jim, for the presentation. We didn't have anything to add on this portion of it. We agree with everything that staff has said, and we agree with the recommendation. We have noted the idea of condo for multifamily as we move forward with it and looking at those options. That is a good one, and we're fine with the stipulations.
Cool, any questions for the applicant? No? All right, well, we'll let you off easy on this one.
See you in a minute.
Yeah, see you in a minute. All right, so with that, I'll open it up to the public. Anybody from the public want to speak to this agenda item? Seeing nobody, I will close the public portion.
Mark.
And bring it back to the commission.
But wait a minute. No.
Man, come on. All right, floor is yours.
Mr. Commissioner, I make a recommendation that to approve the zone, for the city council to approve the zone change request DSA 2200183 from a post ranch pad to R3 with the following conditions. The 4 conditions in there.
All right,
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion second to forward a recommendation of approval. Any discussion? Hearing none. Please call the roll.
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Garza?
Aye.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Vice Chair Benedict?
Aye.
Chairman Miller?
Yes. This is serious business.
Good plan.
Can everybody get on the same page? We all do ayes or all do yeses? Yes. All right.
What fun would that be?
Next, Mr. Gagliardi, DSA-22-00180.
All right, so this is a request for the other portion of Post Ranch. The request is to go from planned area development to R2. And again, as you've already been familiarized with where the site is located, within the Post Ranch planned area development, it currently allows for up to 1,620 single-family homes. And under the currently approved PAD, those would be within the areas with the pale yellow color. The request by the applicant is to amend 567.71 acres of the PAD to R2 to accommodate 2,135 single-family homes. Obviously, that increase would come about by making the lots smaller, narrower, to achieve that number. Now, I already had discussed the separate rezone to R3, but just so you understand the context of the location, that's highlighted for you there. So the applicant did provide a conceptual plan with this request. This is not a preliminary plat, although it looks much like a preliminary plat. This would have to be submitted, or a preliminary plat rather, would have to be submitted as a separate application process and considered by Planning Commission, and ultimately a final plat would be considered by council. But this is a very detailed conceptual plan to identify their proposed layout of the R2 site. And I just wanted to walk through this a bit with you. So they are proposing 23 single-family neighborhood parcels. 71% of the lots would be a minimum of 45 feet wide by 120. And then 29% of the lots would have a minimum of 50 by 120 for the total of 2,135 single-family home sites. They are proposing an 8-acre central park feature surrounded by some of those smaller lots. They are planning and identifying a trail system, as well as incorporating some of our regional trails through and around the perimeter of the site. There is an area identified on this conceptual plan for about a 6.5-acre wastewater treatment facility, as well as approximately 16-acre school site. When looking at their proposed conditions or looking at this conceptual plan and what it would amount to and why it would have to go into an R2 zone, is they're proposing their minimum lot size be 5,400 square feet. And again, the minimum lot dimensions would be comprised of both 45 by 120 and 50 by 120. They're proposing, as I mentioned previously, 71% of the lots would be the 5,400 square foot minimum size, and then the remaining 29 would be a minimum of 6,000 square feet. They're requesting 5 and 5 setbacks, side yard setbacks for a combined 10 feet. And then, as you see, the other proposed development standards pertaining to the front, corner, rear, and minimum open space and height. Again, zone changes primarily rely on compliance and conformance with the general plan when considering whether the zone change is adequate. This area is within the neighborhoods category. And neighborhoods do allow single-family developments with homes on individual lots with a maximum gross density of 4.5. When looking at the amount of proposed home sites that the applicant is proposing, it would be a gross density of 3.76, so it's within what's allowed per the general plan. But these are the 3 specific criteria that need to be addressed, and I'm going to focus on primarily 2 of them here. The first one is that the action is consistent with the city's general plan, including goals, policy, and applicable elements. So there's a goal that conflicts, which is preserve the unique qualities of neighborhoods with the city, and an action step to ensure that that goal is met is to encourage building and site design elements of new developments to blend in with existing developments in order to strengthen the unique character and style of city neighborhoods. So the concern is this zone change could potentially conflict with this goal and action step, because there's planned and existing developments to the west, south, and east that are PADs, subject to more restrictive requirements. And I'll give you an example of what that is. So you see Post Ranch identified in the dark blue there. So to the west, as you go more towards the urban area of town, There's a number of planned and approved PADs that are subject to more restrictive standards than the R2. And then you do have the existing Mission Royale neighborhood. Not all of those properties have certificates of assured water supply. Numbers 10 and 11 do. 12 doesn't, and so that may eventually be re-envisioned, but right now it's a designated or could really only be used for rural purposes. And then, to the north, there's some other planned areas. You do have Phoenix Smart. But as you go to the east of the site, you transition more to the rural area. Directly east of Post Ranch is county zoned, and it's rurally designated. And although Phoenix Smart is fairly intense on the north side, you still have a planned low-density residential area to the east of Phoenix Smart before you transition into the rural area. So there's concerns about where the urban interface meets the rural interface, and concerns that the R2 is, and the development standards that it allows being less restrictive than our PAD standards would be out of place. The last criteria that I want to talk about is that the proposed zone change is necessary and proper at this time to meet the land use needs of the residents of the city. So a little background is there were 8 PADs that were rezoned to R2 the last couple of years to benefit from the recent state legislation granting an increase in certificates of assured water supply for properties that already had been granted CAUS. And conditions of record were implemented on those 8 R2 zone requests to incorporate design and open space standards that were missing from the standard R2 zone. So City Council did express concern about the number of these R2 zone requests, and primarily their concerns were these 3 items: the 45-foot wide lots, and the reduction of side setbacks to 5 feet and 5 feet conflicts with established neighborhoods that were built to PAD design standards, and they had concern that it would affect the overall character of the city. They also had concerns about it creating parking issues, since parking on street is more limited when you have narrower lots because there's less room between driveways. And then also the absence of larger lots that you find in PADs displaces some home buyers looking for larger lots to outside of the city. And so in response to City Council's concerns, we did recently revise the PAD standards to provide more affordable and attainable housing that's desired by the R2 zone requests. But what the new PAD standards do is it allows residential developers to increase lot yields to take advantage of those additional certificates of assured water supply allocation, because we did reduce the required lot width and lot size. And it also enabled an increase in density from the former PADs while preserving neighborhood quality. The new PAD standards ensure that some of the development will provide for larger lots as an additional housing choice for those seeking it. And the PAD zone eliminates the consideration of the long list of imposed conditions placed on an R2 zone. So regarding the public notification efforts, we followed that which is required by code, including notification to the city of Eloy, as they have some jurisdiction to the south of Post Ranch, as well as to Pinal County. There were no inquiries or comments received as a result of our notification. But staff's recommendation is to move to deny the zone change request from PAD to R2 based upon a finding that it does not comply with the general plan. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff?
No questions.
None?
No, I completely agree with Jim's presentation and City Council. I think to build better communities, we have to abide by the PED guidelines that we all work together to change.
Okay. The applicant gets to come and talk
I
still.
know, that's how I feel.
Letting you know.
Just let me know. All right. If we have no questions for staff, I would invite the applicant to come forward. I think you have a presentation for us.
I make a motion.
Oh, we do take our job serious, people. I promise. I promise. We just enjoy it while we do it. That's all.
Yes, trial and error. If it's not moving, press the other button.
Thanks, Jim. Chairman Miller, Commissioners, my name is Jason Hadley, 7507 East McDonald Drive, Suite number 2, Scottsdale, Arizona, 85250. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Jim, for the comprehensive presentation. Before I start my presentation, I want to back up just a little bit and give you a little bit of context. So we started this project about 1.5 years ago, and about a year ago, one of the main primary things for our client was looking at cause and looking at the 2,408 single-family units that were our cause certificates that were assigned to this project. And so one of the goals in meeting with city manager and other staff early on was to figure out how we could maintain as much of that water right as possible while still building a good community. And so during that time, about 1 year ago, after several months of kind of going back and forth, R2 was what was kind of designated to us to explore. And unfortunately, what we did was we went out and for 8 months designed, and when we came back in for the rezoning, there was a moment of pause because you'd seen a bunch of R2 that had come through, and some of those things had changed, and then that PAD amendment had been made. So to just give you a little context, we're not coming in with a denial, recommendation here to thumb our nose at anybody. We're here because we spent 8 months designing it a really good community in R2 with a lot of open space and parks. I'm going to talk about that in a second. Then what we did is we had a great conversation with Director Tice and with Jim once they did have the PAD standards adjusted with the 50-foot lots and the 5 and 10 setbacks. And we went and spent a month going through different iterations to try and figure out how we could get the density and not lose the cause while still creating the master plan that made sense. And I'll go through the numbers with you a little bit, but the big delta for us was taking a plan that had 2,408 water certificates. In the plan that we're presenting to you today as 2135. So it's already 270 units down from that. And when we apply the PAD standard that's recommended, which we applaud, by the way, I entitled Valago and Post Ranch and Story Farms and Acacia, all under the old PAD, and I love what you've done with the new one. I think it's great. Unfortunately, for this specific site, east of the freeway with only 3 other communities, or 2 other communities, and this one that have cause, applying that standard dropped us down another 200 to 250 units. And so we're back to under 2,000 of those water units that we can capture. And that is why we're bringing it for your consideration today. It's not because we are greedy developers and we want a lot of units and small lots. What we want to do is have a thoughtfully designed community for Casa Grande at large and make sure we don't lose water rights that are so important to Arizona today. So I hope that helps a little bit. You're familiar with where Post Ranch is. As Jim mentioned, we're 2.5 miles to the entry on Florence. A little bit of the background, the site, I've been involved with the site since 2004 with Harvard Investments when it was originally entitled. Again, on timeline, working through 16 years of cost and having a approved master plan with 1,621 platted units, and then coming out of the recession. One of the things that's unique in Post Ranch is. Those are the side-by-sides. That's a lot of what Jim has already presented to you. So really what we were looking at is meeting that 3.76 density. The second bullet here is really where the rubber hits the road, as well as the third one. Because we are, and I'm going to show you a map in a second, on that east side of the freeway, because we are part of that eastern growth area, there's a lift associated with a residential project over here. We need to create our own wastewater treatment plant. We need to make sure we capture as much of the water certificates and rights as possible. And then there's also power and other things that are associated with it. So as we look at getting the appropriate density to justify the development of wastewater treatment facilities and capture the water, we really are looking at what that right number is. We really want to provide a single-family detached home sites for folks as opposed to more multifamily or build for rent, which is huge in the valley right now, and provide those homes for people that people can purchase and invest in Casa Grande. And so that's really was kind of one of our goals. One of the first things we did was to keep the 20% open space of the PAD when moving to R2, not going to 15%, but keeping 20% because it's how you create a good community. And so what we did was really work with the 20% open space requirement from the PAD, incorporate that into our R2 zoning, and really from our client's perspective and kind of coming up with theme, really create a health and wellness focused park district model for the property. And then as of late, when we started this project, when we talk about densities and we talk about affordability and where we're at in today's marketplace, we started this project with interest rates at 3%, and now they're at 6 and 7%. We look at density and amenity together to create good programs and good community. And one of the ways to do that is we have HOA fees that again, the more units that we can achieve, the better the amenity balance can be. And we look at those things, and just when we were starting this project, as someone who designed and entitled the master plan for Valago as an example, we've had friends and relatives of actually the development community that because of the HOA fees associated with the amenity packages at Valago, there's a tipping point that as interest rates go up, people can't afford to buy those houses now. So we're looking at trying to get the best of both worlds, a highly amenitized master plan community with a density that supports that infrastructure and that HOA. And the other part of that, which is interesting about the new PAD guideline, we were already doing a unique traditional neighborhood alley-loaded product around the main park, kind of as we were designing this, and we were actually happy to see in the new PAD guideline some of those unique product choices that you're bringing forward and getting credit for those. So this is, if you can see Post Ranch, we're the little guy there on the east side in that blue outlined in yellow. The reason that I have this on here is just looking at where we're at in the phase 1 growth area and trying to stay as part of that phase 1 and be able to develop in a timely manner in a way that affords a good pattern for growth. This is the cause areas. Jim mentioned that the two next to us, the two in blue, are the only other ones with cause right now. And so we respect, that being part of the presentation and where they're at with their current PAD zoning and being tied to that. As we look at our development solutions, kind of all ships rise. So if we can develop in a timely, efficient manner, it helps those adjacent parcels as well as we start to help them get that entry to and development lift, as it were. And then this is just from the regional sewer standpoint where we're at on that. So I'm going to touch on this in a second, but Jim mentioned it. We have a 525,000, is it GPD? Gallons per day facility planned for our site. that would be part of the regional solution for sewer on this site. So again, the more units that we have that can be created to service that, as economies of scale work and as the city takes over those kind of facilities on a per unit pro rata basis, when we're talking cost direct to consumer and cost direct to home builder, or home buyer, the more units we have, the easier it is to kind of amortize those costs for everybody and be better stewards of how we develop efficiently. Getting into the brass tacks of it, 2,135 units, as Jim mentioned. We've talked about the multifamily side and the lot sizes. As I mentioned, going from 45 to 50 across that paradigm, and then upsizing to 50s, it just hurts the density at some point. And we try to look at where we're at from an amenity standpoint. And talking about 5 and 5 setbacks, the market absorbs the 5 and 5 setback. I've been doing this for 30 years. I stand in front of commission and council members and supervisors all the time. There's certain people who just won't ever get on board with 5 and 5s, and I understand that perspective. From the buyer side of it and the livability side, what we've done a lot of studies on over the last 15 years in particular is having the 20-foot rear setback as opposed to 15 that was kind of traditional, and buyers really liking that extra 5 feet, and what they give up inside. From a consumer profile side of it, we sit in rooms like this and talk about it a lot and how different it is. But the reality becomes the great conditions you guys have for the R2 about the architecture and how it needs to be approved in those elevations mean a lot more to how a community lives than the 5 and 5 setback versus a 5 and 10. That's just our experience, and it's proved out over and over through master plan communities. That's basically the same slide. So one of the design tenets for us, I mentioned a park district and trying to get into the plan. We have 23 unique neighborhoods with 26 parks across this site. The initial PAD had an 11-acre main site. We've got our main park site. We've got a 7.3-acre site as the Grand Park, and I'm going to show you detail on that in a minute, as well as another almost 7-acre park just south of the school site with the El Paso gas line running through that. So that equates to, it's going to be on another slide here, but at the end of the day, that equates to 17% of the site being active park open space. So it's a density increase for sure, but it's with a giant amenity lift as well. And then each park is designed so that each neighborhood that you enter into, as you come home at night, you decompress by coming to your park and arriving at that park. It also creates walkability. So we look at every park, every residence within this is a quarter mile to a half mile maximum from the major parks, and is literally less than a 3-minute to 5-minute walk to the park that's in their own neighborhood. So it's a very thoughtful, layered design process while trying to balance that density, all laid out in kind of a traditional neighborhood design fashion. These are just some sampling of those parks, and we'd of course adhere to the landscape standards in Casa Grande, but looking at shade ramadas, play structures, shaded pathways, sand play, grass areas, turf areas, and we're balancing and working through those design elements internally right now as far as water use and trying to balance that out, but amenitizing each park so it's not just kind of. We've seen a lot of parks like these that are just kind of retention basins, right? And people look around and go, okay, what did I really get for that? That's not this. This is, we're really looking at very detailed neighborhood design concepts. This is the Grand Park. It's about 7.5 acres, and it's highly amenitized. So when we look at parks and what the size is, this is including in a commitment from the development community or our developer for a clubhouse, bocce, pools, a pickleball complex, basketball, turf areas, shade areas. We even created an outdoor kitchen area and a parking area with curbs so that you can come up and do food court on the weekends and have food trucks. event lawn, and a splash pad. That's all just within the Grand Park. Of note, too, is that it's dead center in the project, and you can see on each side, east and west, where there's the 11 and the 11, there's linear park system along there, and all of that will be activated with a par course. So all of our north, south, and east-west major corridors have exercise equipment. We were really making a commitment to a health and wellness kind of idea at Post Ranch. And the idea behind that is that, A, you'd have respite areas for people who want to just take that stroll and want a shaded spot to rest, or for those who want to be active, to have an active role in that. And that central nexus becomes the Grand Park. As I mentioned earlier, 17% of the site is in parks like this. And then there's the traditional neighborhood design around the park, which is an alley-loaded product. So what we've found is, over the years, as we look at parks and eyes on the green, that's really what this is designed for, so that you have front porch elements, and I'm going to show you some quick architecture on this. But the idea is also that you don't have driveways backing up, right? So that pedestrians and kids and bicycles around the major hub of activity in the park have a unique product around there, so that people aren't backing out and creating pedestrian conflicts, and it makes a much safer park zone for the neighborhood park, and it creates that unique feature within the project itself. This is a park at Verado that kind of emulates that. It's a smaller version, but it gives you an idea of what a 45 and a 50-foot wide lot with, on the north side, there's an alley with access to the garages. The south, same thing, and pool area, and fronting onto a green. This is what the two-story architecture looks like, with 5 and 5 setbacks on that, with a front porch. And so that's really what we're striving to do, is create something that's a unique deal, and really not seen in the fabric right now in Casa Grande. And so as part of staff's presentation, we understand what is the fabric today versus what we're asking here. We're creating a different fabric, but we think it's as good or on par or better in certain elements than any master plan that you currently have. And that's really what we're striving for. There's another version of that as well. I mentioned the north, south, east, west connections highlighted in green there. These are the trail sections that we're looking at along the San Carlos, the El Paso, and the Hohokam trail irrigation areas. We're looking at actually piping those and bringing them in tighter so that we can use better landscape at expense to our client. That way we can actually landscape those and make those something more. I mean, we could leave them as open ditches right now and kind of work through them, and it's really not open space at that point. But if we pipe them, then we can narrow that up, and then we can use plant materials and plantings to truly activate that open space and create something that's really truly special and unique. As Jim mentioned in his presentation, we've looked at all the regional trail systems and are looking at connecting and adhering to all of those. And so you've got 8-foot to 10-foot path and trail running north-south in east-west and connecting and looping through our walk system to all our open space areas. These are some just theme imagery of where we're headed right now with design. This represents park course for anybody who's not really quite familiar with that. Some of them would be shaded, some will not be, but truly kind of committing to an active lifestyle. This is a comprehensive theme package that we've put together. I think part of that was in the submittal as far as where we're headed with some of the materials. It's conceptual in nature now. But really, in conclusion, you know, a 3.76 DU per acre on a 4.5 general plan is pretty acceptable from that standpoint. When it comes to necessity and where we're at in today's world, that lift to get a water treatment plant and the things that need to be regionally solved really need some density. And we think we've thoughtfully designed it to meet the needs of Casa Grande, but also to help raise the bar on what we're talking about when we talk about small lots. That density should come with amenity. It should come with a better way of living and a healthy lifestyle. And that's really what we're striving to do with that 20% open space. With that, I'll take any questions.
Questions for the applicant?
Chairman, I have a question.
Member Garza.
Great presentation. You did really well. I had a question about the, you mentioned Valago and the entitlements with Valago. So with that lower amenity fee or an HOA fee came a community facilities district tax. So that was passed on to the property owner. So is this large, R2 zoned development going to be developed with a community facilities district in the future? Is there a thought behind that? Because these are big improvements.
Sneaking up behind you over there.
Yes, Kevin.
Hi, my name is Kevin Peterson. I represent the ownership group, Queen Creek, Arizona. There is an existing community facilities district approval on this site. Whether it gets used or not, whether the amount stays the same that it is right now, or we come in later on based on the amenity package asking for more, that hasn't been determined yet. So there is that possibility, but until we get final design, final approvals, we won't be able to calculate if we will or will not use the community facilities district that's available.
Thank you.
Excellent question.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the
I
applicant?
live in Valago.
I feel like you spent a lot of time preparing on this presentation. You guys don't have any other questions for him?
Prepared well enough.
It's always good when you leave them speechless, right? Awesome. Well, thank you for your presentation. I appreciate it. And we'll see if anything else pops up, but at this time.
Great, thank you.
All right, so then at this time, we'll open it up to the public, right? Yeah, public? Anybody from the public want to speak to this one? All right.
Hi, thank you very much. And my name is Nancy Wood, 513 East Feckle Road, Casa Grande, Arizona. And just impressive presentation and everything, but as I've spoken before about changing over to the smaller lot sizes in the past and some of the changes that I've seen you guys adopt for the city with the not accepting the 45 width lots and the 5 and 5s. Because I hear from a lot of the people that I talk to in the city and friends and just people I run into that, they get uncomfortable from the small lot sizes when it's hard to maneuver around, when you can't find parking spaces in some of these communities, when they get reduced sizes to the kind of zoning that you're talking about in this. So I just wanted to say that I don't really agree and approve, and I hope you deny the changeover, unless they go with some of the new recommendations that the guys have, planning and zoning have come up with that I think are a good compromise.
All right.
Thank you.
Would anybody else from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Hang on. I'm still in the public portion. Hang on. Once I close the public portion, I'll bring it out.
Am I
I'm gonna
allowed to
close the
say
public
anything
portion.
as the applicant under the public comment?
When you yeah.
I just closed it though. That's all right. You can come back. come on down. Sorry, it's my last night. I'm having a good time, okay?
My son's here, Tanner, who's in the business with me, and I said, Tanner, I'm not going to say anything tonight. I think Jason's got it covered. And he says, Dad, you're not going to be able to keep your mouth quiet. So he was right, and if you would just bear with me, I think there's a couple of clarification points that I hope you all take into consideration as you make your decision tonight. And if I could maybe touch on a couple of those, I would appreciate it. Let me first tell you that we are responsible developers and planners. We have vast experience in the metropolitan Phoenix area, and when we decided to come down here to Casa Grande and be part of this post-ranch development, we didn't come down here because we could cut corners and that we could propose something that was less than. We've spent a substantial amount of time, money, and efforts coming up with an incredible plan from a design standpoint, from an amenity package standpoint, from a functionability standpoint, and also from an economic sustainability standpoint. Let me touch on that just for a minute. When we first came down here, we sat with all the city folks, this gentleman included, Larry, your city manager, all the different department heads. And there was two big concerns at that time. Number one was water. We recognized that Casa Grande was a growing community that's getting looked at now from a national standpoint when it comes to employers, and it's continuing. But along with that issue and that challenge, we also have some water challenges in Pinal County. And we have to play by the rules that are given us right now by the Department of Water Resources. And the rules that we're given right now for the city of Casa Grande for the Department of Water Resources is there's properties right now that have cause units associated with them. This project happens to be one of those projects that has 2,400 cause units associated with it. So when we talked to Larry and we talked to staff, and we looked at the circumstances economically with the town of Casa Grande, it was quickly determined that the existing 1,700 units that were being used on the existing plan was going to be a waste of the resources that are allocated to this piece of property from a water standpoint. And just because we use 1,700, that doesn't mean that the other 500 or 600 or 700 units goes to another project in Casa Grande. It kind of disappears into the Department of Water Resources system, maybe to be recuperated sometime in the future. So as we talked with staff and we talked with your city manager, we talked with the department heads, we said, what can we do to not lose this ever so important resource that this property has right now? We need to maximize its capacity and capability. Number two, in addition to that, Larry said, Kevin, you've got to give me something that's not typical. We heard words tonight thrown out on why we might be denied. And there was words like more restrictive standards if you do a PAD. Words like this project will be out of place to its neighbors that are next door that are PADs. Words like, we're going to lose quality. Every one of those claims are absolutely opposite to what you've seen presented to you tonight. You've seen a project that has been thought out by one of the best professional planning companies in the valley. It's got wonderful signage. It's got incredible grand entrances. It's got a theming of health and fitness throughout the entire project. It's got 23 entrance boulevards into each of the neighborhoods with park settings. It's got a grand park like the great projects in Scottsdale like you hear, like Marley Park with the central park system and the front-end loaded and alley-backed product. And yes, you're going to get 45 by 120s and you're going to get 50 by 120s. And that's the same size lot you're going to get if we come back and do a PAD. The difference is there's going to be 5-yard and 10-yard setbacks versus 5-yard and 5-foot setbacks. That's it. So we're not going to have smaller lot sizes if we go back to a PAD. What we're losing is 350 valuable cause units for the town of Casa Grande. That'll take care of 2 decent-sized employers. When people move into these neighborhoods, they want amenity packages. They're not measuring the 5-foot and the 10-foot setbacks on their 45 by 120 or their 50 by 120 lots. They want to have the parks, they want to have the amenities, they want to have the hiking trails, they want to have the theming, they want to have a sense of place. If you cause us to go back and redesign under the PAD after the direction from your city was given us that we worked on tirelessly and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars for to get where we're at, We created a superior subdivision. We did what Larry asked us to do. We put together a quality subdivision. We put together a better than average amenity package. But if you now tell us to go back, we're going to lose these valuable water units, so we can't get back, which the town needs. Number two, it's going to minimize our ability to participate in the utilities, whether it's sewer or water or other infrastructure needed to get that side of the road going, which is a real issue. And the most important thing, which is sad, if we lose units, we lose resources, then the amenity package that we're presenting to you tonight now has to be watered down. Now we become typical. Now we become like everything else. Post Ranch, if you really look at the design, you look at the booklet, you look at what we have proposed, it is the nicest subdivision, save Velago, in an amenity package, a presentation package, a subdivision package, a park package that the town of Casa Grande has. So you're going to turn down quality and above standard, and you're going to force us to go back to typical standard. That's the economics of it. So I just wanted everybody, as they looked at this, to realize the perspective of what you have in front of you is good, it's sound, it's quality, it's responsible, it's what the town asked us to do when we started. And we fulfilled every measure of it, and then some. And now if you twist on us, here at the last minute, we now have to go back to sacrificing valuable water rights, valuable economic resources that we need and the town needs to develop the infrastructure on that side of the road, and we go back to typical, less quality, and at the end of the day, we're still going to have the same lot sizes. The only difference is it's going to have a 5-foot setback on the side and a 10-foot versus a 5 and 5. And at the end of the day, as Jason told you, the market, they don't care whether it's 5 and 5. The consumer doesn't care whether it's 5 and 5. The builders don't care whether it's 5 and 5. They want the amenity. They want the feel. They want the atmosphere. There's no health and fitness themed projects in this town of 500 and some odd acres that makes you want to get out and walk and jog and play with your kids. This is an all outside, take care of yourselves, be outside in this Arizona wonderful weather and exercise. Be part of the community. This is parks, this is open space, this is grand theming. This is a project that we're proud of. And if you look at it in detail, it is quality beyond anything you have in Casa Grande. And you're going to ask us with a no vote to go back and be typical. So I appreciate you letting me clarify that. And I apologize for being so passionate, but I love what I do. And I just want to make sure when you voted tonight, you are not voting for less than. You're voting for a higher quality project. If you say no tonight, you're going to force us back to typical. That's the economics of it. Thank you. Any questions of me?
Any questions for the readdressing of the applicant? All right. Well, with that. Commissioner, what would you like to do?
It was a great presentation, really good.
I will just note that I will defer to my entire tenure here of, I appreciate landowner rights. And so.
So it's
It's a
back,
tough one.
it's back to us.
Back to us. You could choose to make a motion if you would like to, or we could choose to have discussion or have additional questions for staff.
Well, before somebody starts the motion, I hope
Yeah.
somebody else does.
Before they do that, though.
Before they do that. No, I just, this is a tough one, as we've all talked about, because sure looks like a good project. And one of the things I think is interesting is we talk about having a variety of housing in the community, and then we talk about not having two dissimilar ones next to each other. And so that's another piece of this that we're trying to weigh. And it's it's a tough balancing act that we're all trying to do. So I think, to say that we shouldn't do this one because it's different, I don't think that really holds up. I get the point. You don't want it too different, then, you don't want to have a big abrupt change. With the kind of quality that they're talking about, my sense is if they carry on that way, we won't have that big of a change, and hopefully it'll be an improvement that can stand up alongside the neighborhoods there. The other piece that I just hate to lose is the cause. Those certificates, what they mean, to my simple mind, is they mean home ownership. And that, everybody tells me that home ownership leads to better communities and folks that put more time and care into their communities. And, if that's right, then I can see the sense of that. So I'd hate to lose the cause. Sure looks like a good product. Boy, if I vote for it, you better do it that way too.
They gotta come back for their actual plaque, right? This is just, we haven't even addressed that portion of it, so.
No, we're not even there.
So you guys get to discuss that at a later date, because I won't be here, so. No, I think that, I guess to piggyback on my mind has never been able to wrap my head around diversification through standardization, right? So like we create standards that people have to build subdivisions through, but then we ask them to be diverse. And so that seems like a weird oxymoron, like how we create a conflict. I think that the city continues to evolve and do great things to adapt so we can change, and I've appreciated that with our city staff. And so, but yeah, I think.
I've got one comment to follow up on Celeste's issue before, or comments on the master plan community that I live in is also the same one that she lives in. I was one of the first people to purchase a home in Valago, and we were promised the world. That was going to be the greatest thing. Not only the lake, which is just such a community asset to us, but there were also supposed to be phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, with more amenities, more parks. And
Golf courses.
we weren't advised that the developer at the time did not have enough cause for phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. So as far as everybody is concerned that lives in that community, we are built out, and there will be no more cause available to that community. So I hate to see them go to waste also. I really, these people have the cause, they have it available to them. You just hate to turn it down and turn it away, so just a point.
I love a beautiful community. I just don't love that the taxpayer has to pay for it sometimes.
Yeah.
Who's gonna pay for it?
Huh?
If the taxpayer doesn't pay for it, who pays for it?
Well, there's some profit to every development, you have to create the infrastructure in order to make the profit. So I just don't think it should be always passed on the taxpayer. It's a beautiful community, but I don't think that, a special tax is the way that.
I agree from the outside utility standpoint. I mean,
Well, sewer, getting the sewer there for sure.
You gotta build a subdivision, that's
Yeah.
what you gotta do. You can't have a subdivision without sewer, but that's just part of doing business. But if you're gonna have amenities built into the subdivision, then that's obviously where you're choosing to live and why, right? So all the other amenities that come with the subdivision, that's a choice to live there and pay for those amenities.
Right, and some of those amenities in Valago are city parks that the public uses.
Yeah.
It's not just the development that the lot owners that live there.
Exactly.
Gosh, this one's a tough one.
All right.
This one's really tough.
Just gonna hang out here till we get a motion.
I will make a motion. Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Yeah. Member Peters.
I'd like to make a motion that the Planning Commission moved to deny the zone change request, DSA-220018 from Post Ranch PAD to R2.
I'll second that motion.
So I have a motion and a second to deny the change to R2 from PAD.
That's the way that it is written. So that's the motion that I'm making.
Okay.
He understands the denial?
Chairman.
Okay, so hang on. Yeah.
Just to be clear, we're still forwarding a recommendation.
Mark,
Of
I don't think
denial.
we are. Did you look at that section
No.
of the
Yeah,
city
it
code?
says if there's a recommendation of denial.
Right.
Yeah, so you're still.
They can appeal to
Right.
council on a denial.
Right.
So,
45 days. It says if the recommendation from
yeah. I'm aware
the
of
planning
that.
commission is of denial, then
They
they
can
have to make
appeal
a
to
written
council.
request to take it to council.
Yeah.
So I think you're still making a motion to forward a recommendation of denial. If that's what your motion is to deny.
No.
No, that's,
Our motion, our agenda item states that we are here to.
No, I know,
either
but
approve
he
or
made a
deny.
motion to deny. I just want to make sure, you guys aren't denying it. You're you're
No,
forwarding
we
a
are
rec-
denying it.
Huh?
We are denying it.
But we're
No,
forwarding
you're
a
forwarding a
recommendation.
recommendation of denial to council.
That's through their appeal process, though. That
No,
doesn't
but you
do
have to
with
make
us.
the recommendation of denial.
Just a point of clarification, Mark's correct, but if the motion passes, this matter will not be put on a council agenda unless the applicant appeals. Would you agree, Mark?
Correct.
No,
So-
hang on. If
So
it
you are-
passes,
If the motion passes to deny, to recommend a denial, this motion will not be placed on a city council agenda for their action unless the applicant appeals your decision.
correct.
So here, I'll say it
So-
like this, if it's easier.
Please.
Like every other zone change we do, you're forwarding a recommendation to council. If you choose to forward a recommendation of denial, it doesn't automatically go to council like the recommendations of approval.
and then I'd like to.
The applicant has to, make a written written request.
To
take it
appeal our
council.
decision.
Correct.
But our decision can't be to recommend denial. Our decision has to be to deny in order to allow them to request their appeal.
No,
No.
but the code says,
It's just like,
yeah, it
does
says,
everybody understand where I'm going with that, right? That-
it just says that a rezoning which has been recommended for denial
Correct.
by the commission shall not be reviewed by city council except upon written request by the applicant. So you're still
But if we-
recommending
I think there's a
denial.
typo in that because it
But
would
if-
have to be, we'd have to take the action of denial.
But if we, let me ask it this way, which doesn't really answer that part, but if we do it the other way around, so the motion that's on the floor now, if we turn against that, if we don't do that, then it will go to the city council.
If the motion fails,
Correct, this motion that we
then
have
the
now.
motion
is
fails,
to
it
deny.
doesn't someone else has to make another motion.
Correct.
It doesn't automatically.
So let's flip
go
it all the way
opposite.
the other way. Let's say he recommended to approve.
Correct. If you
Are
did
we-
that.
It's his motion to recommend, to forward a recommendation to
Of
council
approval.
to approve.
Yes. Whatever motion you guys make, it's a recommendation to council. You don't
Council's gonna
approve.
see this no matter what.
No.
They-
No.
They'll see the minutes.
It won't.
So you're making a
doesn't
recommendation to
go
council.
forward.
Yes.
Yep.
So if they want to take it to council,
But if his motion gets defeated, it doesn't go to council either.
No.
No, because it's defeated.
if his motion gets
Well, we have
defeated,
to have another
then you have to
motion.
make
Well,
another
then-
motion.
Well, then I want to rescind my motion.
It's been seconded though, right? We got a second on the motion.
Is the second rescinding their motion? Or are
So,
you,
so Member Peters, do you want to rescind it or just restate it?
I would like to restate it.
Okay, how would you like to
What I'm hearing
restate?
you say, sir.
So you're gonna make a motion to amend your motion? Yeah.
who
That's-
made the second?
Celeste.
Celeste.
Well, wait, I want to hear his motion.
I know. She's gonna withdraw her motion.
Hold on a
So
second.
we're
You
gonna
have to
go there.
withdraw your motion in
Guys,
order
hold,
for him to amend
yeah,
his.
hold on a second. Are you,
Yes, I will
Withdraw.
withdraw my second.
and you're going to withdraw the motion, so there's no motion on the floor.
Right.
Correct? So just state the motion that you want to make. And whatever it is, it just has to be a recommendation to council, whether it's for
Okay.
approval or denial. That's whichever one you want to do.
Okay, I would like to make a motion to approve the zone change
So forward a
recommendation
favorable,
of
so
approval.
forward a
the
recommendation of
recommendation
approval.
of approval to city council.
See how easy that is?
Continue.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
For DSA 22-00180.
That's
from
good.
Post Ranch pad to R2.
All right. So now I have on the floor a motion to
Do you wanna
forward a recommendation of
Ask
approval.
about the,
So if I can interrupt.
Sure, please. Let's throw some more.
It's not really about motions, so that's some good news, but staff is suggesting and making a recommendation that if this is to be recommended for approval, that it be subject to a list of these specific conditions that were provided within your staff report.
Does this sit here?
Is this it
Yeah,
right
that's
here?
displayed on the screen. And it's multiple pages, but it's all been provided within the staff report. But the first four are specific conditions that the applicant has imposed on their R2 zone district, reflected within their conceptual plan and the open space that you saw in the presentation. And then, I should say the first three, and then from 4 on are the conditions that have been imposed on the other R2 zone districts that Planning Commission and Council had recently considered. And as you see, it goes on for several pages.
Well, is the applicant familiar with those additional items?
Yes, we are, and we're good with them.
Okay.
Yep.
So that way, all of a sudden, we're not throwing a different curveball at you tonight. Okay, so I have a motion to approve, or forward a recommendation of approval.
With the
With the-
changes as
with
presented
the-
by the staff and agreed to by.
Okay.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
so I just
So-
want to make sure, just so everybody's clear, you might do this,
I'll-
sorry.
yeah.
You got it? Okay, go ahead.
So, currently, we're about to do a roll call vote. A yes means that we are forwarding a recommendation of approval to City Council with the comments and conditions and modifications presented this
To let
evening
city
in the staff
council
report.
approve or deny.
City Council is gonna have the ultimate say whether this is going through or not. We're just sending forward to them what we think they should do. And so tonight, if you say yes, you're gonna say, they're gonna go, hey, 3 of the commissioners said yes, or 5 of the commissioners said yes, that they wanted to approve it, or all of them did. So they will see that reflected in their report. But they're gonna ultimately decide whether this gets approved or not. So does everybody understand the motion and the vote?
Right.
Okay. Call the roll.
Ready? Member Vanderhayden.
Yes.
Member Hubbard.
No.
Member Garza.
No.
Member Peters.
I appreciate the legal explanation there before it went too far. And, aye.
Member Estrada.
Yes.
Vice Chair Benedict.
I know, man.
It's a yes or an aye.
Come on.
That's a yes.
Yeah, no, but
No, that's not what he's laughing at, because he knows the vote count. He's looking at me because of all the times I put him in a split vote.
dang it. Yeah, I have to vote my conscience. I can't give up that water, and so I have to vote aye.
Member, Chairman Miller.
Much as I.
As much as you wanted to put me in a split vote, didn't you? Aye. All right, motion approved, or forward recommendation, so good luck at council. Thank you guys for your presentation this evening and your patience. Hopefully, everybody got a lesson in what not to do with Robert's rules, order, and, all right.
Yeah, that was
I like the plan.
I was so waiting for you to say
That would've been
hilarious. That was gonna be so bad. Oh, boy. All right. Next up, hold a public hearing and consider request by Lincoln Avenue Capital for some land use approvals. Planned area development, major amendment, P and Z only.
Sorry, we're doing some musical chairs.
What's that?
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna run with DSA-22-00198 and DSA-22-00150.
All right, good evening, Commissioners. The next item on the agenda is a PAD major amendment request for PAZ only.
We need,
We can't
hang
hear
on,
you.
time out. We're gonna take a quick 5-minute break before you get rolling.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. Great.
Good job.
Thank you.
We're back now. All right. All right. Mr. Sarnowski. Sorry. I'll get there.
All right, were you gonna?
I announced it earlier. Do you want me to
Okay.
announce it again?
No,
I can. It's all right.
All right, the next request is for DSA 22-00198, a PAD major amendment, and DSA 22-00150 for a major site plan approval. This is located at the southwest corner of Pueblo Drive and O'Neill Drive within the Cottonwood Ranch PAD. The PAD major amendment, which is a Planning and Zoning Commission only amendment request, is to reduce the parking requirement from 585 to 544, which is a reduction of 51 spaces. And the major site plan is to approve proposing a 300-unit apartment complex with a mix of 2, 3, and 4-bedroom units and associated amenities. The site will be utilizing Section 42 Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program, and their target demographic caters to workforce residents and their families, which includes grocery, retail, teachers. And the development will be 100% restricted income levels at or below 60% of the area median income for a minimum of 15 years. Getting back into some of the development standards, the site is at 18.8 dwelling units per acre. And important to note that the site is zoned for multifamily as part of the Cottonwood Ranch PAD amendment that was completed in 1999. Oops. So here's the existing zoning showing the multifamily, commercial, and the major site plan. So looking at the PAD request, the staff report goes in additional detail. I will be only looking at the conformance to the city's zoning ordinance with regards to the parking deviation request. I'll be covering more of these with the major site plan. So looking at this request, again, is reducing the parking standard from 585 to 544, which is again a reduction of 41 spaces. A parking analysis was completed for this site and compared parking of comparable multifamily units. The analysis shows that the amount of parking provided will be sufficient and meet and exceed parking demands for this development. With regards to the major site plan, again, the staff report goes in additional detail on all of these. I will be covering the first 4. So with regards to relationship of the plan elements to conditions both on and off the property, again, the site is approximately 16 acres of multifamily. It is separated from the single-family development by 2 collector roads, Pueblo to the east and O'Neill to the north, and multifamily and commercial to the south and west. With regard to the conformance to the city's zoning ordinance, again, this is requesting a deviation from the parking standards, as well as it meets the 2021 residential design standards for PADs. There is no buildings over 28 feet within 50 feet of the single-family development. The site is at 35 feet, 3 stories, which is consistent with R3 zoning height and recently approved PADs for multifamily. And the site meets the open space and landscape standards. The image on the right shows the approximate distance from the buildings to the property lines of the single-family development. Along O'Neill, it's approximately 120 feet away, and on Pueblo, it's approximately 245 feet away. And this shows a little profile of O'Neill as well. So with regards to the city's general plan, this is within the community corridors land use category, which allows for density up to 25 dwelling units per acre. The site is at 18.8. And one of the housing goals of the general plan is to encourage a variety of neighborhood design and development patterns, and to encourage a range of neighborhood types, densities, and building designs within plan area developments and throughout the city. And one of the community corridor goals is to promote high-density residential uses along urban areas and near major commercial centers. And one of the action steps here is to encourage higher density residential developments on infill sites and along key corridors. So with regards to traffic, which is one of the big issues in this area, a TIA was completed, and it looks at capacity in 2025, which is the approximate build-out for the site. So all movements operate at a level of service D or at the same level as the existing conditions, with the exceptions of Pueblo Drive and O'Neill Drive and Pueblo Drive and Cottonwood Lane intersection. And one of the city's policies is that traffic conditions and level of service must be at a D or better. One thing to note that TIE just looks at the current roadway alignments. It doesn't look at future alignments. So I did want to point out that with the development going on to the east within the G Diamond P80, O'Neill Drive would be extended to Colorado and eventually to Perch, and the Colorado Street alignment will be completed between Cottonwood Lane and Courtson. So as you see in the staff report, there is additional condition of approval to look at additional mitigation measures that may be needed prior to public improvement submittals. Regarding notification, staff and the applicant did hold a neighborhood meeting on June 14th. Approximately 7 members from the public came to the meeting. Their concerns were traffic, height of the buildings, and multifamily on the site. The applicant did a good job of showing elevations and renderings, and there wasn't too many other concerns after the meeting. However, since the announcement of the major site plan to Planning Commission, I did receive multiple emails and phone calls regarding traffic, height of the buildings, and multifamily site. Some of them were attached to the staff report and additional handout today of the emails I received prior to the printing of the staff report. And again, wanted to note again that the site has been zoned multifamily as part of the Cottonwood Ranch P80 since 1999. So with that, staff recommends to approve the P80 major amendment, DSA 22-00198, and to move to approve the major site plan requests with the following conditions of approval. Happy to answer any questions Planning Commission may have.
Questions for staff?
Yeah.
All right, Member Benedict.
Jackie, can you go back to the, I think you call it profile picture of, was it O'Neill Road?
So in this image, it's showing the buildings to actually the building of the single-family residence, and I believe it's at about 165. I was showing in this one from the property line to the building, which would.
Say that again.
So in the last bottom image, it's showing the distance between both buildings.
The 120 feet is from property
Yeah.
line to the building.
Yeah, yeah. That's how what was going on.
Property line to
This is just
You can
showing to
figure
the
it
property
out.
line.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry I didn't think about this question before. And I think I asked this in the last meeting, one of the issues. Anybody smart enough to tell me the height to the top of the window on the 3rd floor?
What's the height to the top of the building? I'll give you an idea.
So it was,
Take a picture.
what was it, 30?
The applicant may be able to address that, but I think it shows, oh, I can't see that.
35 foot?
It says. No, it says there. 30.
Well, it says on that page, I don't know
It
what
says
that means,
35
35 foot
allowed.
consistent with the article.
It's 28 to the top.
Way to go.
Hey.
Way to step in, man.
30 foot.
If they didn't get it, we were gonna ask it when the applicant came up, so it's a.
28 feet to the top of the window.
That's what I think.
Was trying to blow it up.
I was just about to say that.
Okay, but then how many feet to the top of the building?
35.
The top of the window.
The top of the window. he
7
just
foot
said it was
difference, you'll be
28
fine.
feet.
Yeah, then you gotta go
All right.
up further.
No, I don't have to go up there. That's all I care about is people.
Yeah.
Any
Yeah,
balconies on the roof?
Their parapets and all of the other stuff that's up there.
Yeah, true.
Might be ugly, but that's a whole nother.
Oh, whoa, whoa.
Well, it might be, I'm sorry.
Let's not
Forgive
jump
me,
to
please,
conclusions.
please continue.
But it might be beautiful. Any other questions for staff?
Can you go back to page, the very first page?
Member Hubbard, yes.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I just try and always say your name for the record and speak into your microphone, I'm being told,
Did I not?
so they can get you recorded.
Okay, so,
Which one? The next?
nope, this is it.
Okay.
Okay, so does the builder get a tax credit for building? Because it sounds like to me it's on a low to moderate census tract plot. Is that what you're saying here? And is this, since it is the 60% of the median income, because that would be low to moderate?
So this development is being financed with the low income housing tax credit program.
That's what I was wondering.
And so I'm not sure whether, you know, it's the 4% or the 9% program, but the applicant, I'm sure, can discuss that. That's the
So
business
this would be
model
Section
that they're
8,
in.
right?
Not Section 8, no. It's a low-income tax credit program.
Section
So there
42.
is.
Section
essentially-
42?
There is essentially some rent controls based on bedroom size.
Okay.
And the applicant can discuss that in great detail with you, I'm sure.
All righty. Just was wondering.
I'm sorry I'm laughing. Brett's making fun of me, but it's
Are
okay.
you making fun of me?
No, he's making fun of me. Oh, sorry. Any other questions for staff?
Chairman, I have a question.
Yes, Member Carson.
So just a point of clarification, so the developer would have to do mitigation measures at those two intersections to the traffic situation that is there today?
If it's, yes, if it's,
Because they're going to be causing the level of service F, so we need to move from an F to a C or D, correct?
Preferably
if,
A.
Okay.
yeah, if
Wish it was an
analysis
A.
shows
That's
additional.
correct.
Okay,
is
got
it
it.
additional
Which could
measure-
include a traffic signal.
Yes.
Or like a ride-in, ride-out only on Pueblo?
Their access is
The
all on.
median?
Oops.
It's actually the intersection of Pueblo and Cottonwood.
Yeah.
It's
That's
two.
so you can possibly convert it to right in, right out, but more likely traffic signal, if I had to guess, to make that LOS work down to D.
I've lived that.
But our traffic engineer can address that for
Hey,
you.
let's bring him in on this conversation, since we've got him here. Welcome, again.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, we need the mitigation measures, and that may include a whole range of things. And of course, signal is one of them, and more than likely maybe. But unless they go back and show us, we cannot determine that. It is the responsibility of the applicants to show us how they will mitigate.
Okay.
There would be a signal right, like O'Neill and Pueblo, because there's a school right there? I mean, right now it's,
No, the four-way stop.
or could there be like,
It's in the internal neighborhood there?
because the school is right
Is
there.
that where were the Ds?
So a mitigation measure could just be a through lane and a turn lane for the school to have more room to park cars in the road, which
No.
they shouldn't do.
Whoa, they should not be encouraging parking cars in the road.
Sit there for a very long time.
Or in that other subdivision right
But
there.
I think this signal probably warrants at Cottonwood and Pueblo today.
Sure.
Yeah, there
It's a
too.
dangerous left turn.
Okay.
Yeah, it is very dangerous.
Any other questions for staff? And that aerial was, seems like forever ago, but it wasn't that long ago. The aerial photo had no homes in there, but they're all full of homes now. Any other questions for staff? No? We're gonna bring up them smart applicants, answering questions like window heights.
Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the Commission. My name is Ben Taylor. I'm with Lincoln Avenue Capital, the developer and owner of the proposed development here. So I think Jacqueline did a great job presenting, so I don't have too much to add, but I do want to call out a few cool things that we are doing on this development. We're going to have solar photovoltaic carports as well They're going to offset about 60% of the all-electric on the entire property. We'll also be pre-wiring for EV chargers when and if we need those eventually. And then, I'd also like to call out, with this being low income, we're long-term owners, so we can't build and flip and sell. We're with this project for 15 years. So with that, our design, sustainability measures, quality construction, everything for us is long-term. We're in this, we're involved in the community, trying to get and solicit feedback and design this to make it work. So I just wanted to call that out, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Right. Do you have any questions for the applicant?
These are apartments, correct?
Correct, rental.
We need low to moderate rent in Casa Grande, so this is really nice.
Yeah. There wasn't any questions? No? Yeah, once you sit down, we'll think of some other obscure measurement.
right here,
we need.
yep.
Some other obscure measurement we're gonna need for clarification. Well, thank you for being here this evening.
Of course, thank you.
All right, so at this time, we'll open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Look at little man's
Oh, he's out.
bedtime, bringing him up.
Dang, we should
Well
do this
done.
first.
I like it. Please state your name and address for the record.
Matthew LaBeouf, 1731 North Westfall Trail in Casa Grande 85122. We appreciate the effort that they did to put the gaps between the neighborhood, the single family. We are one of the homes that's on, that backs up to Pueblo, so we will be immediately impacted. Our major concern at this point is the traffic is already bad, but the only exit's gonna be on O'Neill, which is understandable, but you're not taking into account the heights. They will have a direct sight line if they're that tall of a building going straight into the backyards of all those houses on Pueblo, or that are on Westfall Trail. And when we bought the house, the big selling point was you're getting a premium lot with a large backyard to be able to put pools in and extra space for your kids. Well, now we potentially are gonna have houses that, or apartments that, if you look at the window, you can see straight in, which means our kids no longer are protected by the wall, and there's no privacy. We understand that they want to do low and moderate income, we're okay with that, but putting 3-story tall, 28 feet, I know in the homeowners meeting we had tonight, they brought up they're gonna put 25-foot trees, or 20-foot trees, and they grow 2 to 3 feet a year. Well, that's great, but it's gonna take 7 to 10 years for them to actually be able to provide some privacy to those homes across. And what's also not taken into account is there's a significant gap or a grade upgrade from the houses that back up to it to this actual complex. So you pretty much are almost adding 7 to 10 feet, potentially, and then you add the 20-foot trees. It can take probably 7 to 10 years before they're actually gonna make a difference to block the privacy of the homeowners who are there, who bought homes with that selling point. Yes, D.R. Horton told us that. We should have had it in writing. They didn't. We unfortunately have to deal with that, but please at least take that into account, the fact that you want to give some privacy to the homeowners who are going to be trying to live there for 30-plus years or more. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Darla Johnson. I live at 1173 East Tyler Lane. And I too thought that when I bought my home there, which spontaneously bought quickly to beat the market, that I would have my view forever. And I realize you can't stop a development because Darla's going to lose her view, but there are other things to take into consideration here. And one is the traffic. I have great concerns about the traffic in that area, even though you're going to extend O'Neill. I don't think that's enough. We already have parking issues in our subdivision where the streets are lined with cars. So if you're going to build a development of this size on that corner, most all families have more than one vehicle. There's not going to be enough parking. So where are they going to park? In my front yard. So that is a huge concern. I think there's a safety concern here. You have a school on that corner, and you have kids walking. You have parents parking all the way down O'Neill. You have traffic lined up all the way down O'Neill, all the way north on Pueblo. Sorry, it's way past my bedtime. And there's already major issues with that. With all of that traffic, if somebody in our subdivision needs EMTs, they're battling that. If somebody in this development needs emergency assistance, our first responders are already battling a traffic problem. So there's a big safety issue. The elevation of this property is, I'm going to guess, 3 to 5 feet higher than mine. These buildings are going to be towering into my backyard. With 300 units coming from a previous career in property management, I'm going to guess that you're going to have well over 500 vehicles on this property. I bought thinking that everything around me was going to be single story. That's on me, but never dreamed in my wildest dreams that I was going to have 3-story buildings towering into my backyard. That's all on a personal note. I am going to add on a professional note that I am responsible for all the transportation of our students K through 8. And I have a huge issue of getting my buses in and out of that subdivision. Even today, I got an email from one of the drivers saying that it's not safe. So I don't know what the answer is, but I know that a 3-story building is just too much for that area. That combined with the bungalows, you're adding 1,000+ people to that 1 square mile. I guess I'm done. I don't know what that means. I can go on forever if you start me in the morning, but I'm going to let it go at that, guys. Seriously, this is something that's, I'm sure, not an easy decision, and I know that we're building all over. Are we overbuilding in our area? I don't know, but I'm thinking we might be. Please think about this area. The traffic there is horrifying already. Horrifying. I can't get my buses in there. I can't turn down off of Palm onto Tyler. We had to reroute. Our special needs students over on the other side, I have to take them home later because we can't get our buses in there. Big problem over there, guys.
Thank you.
My name is Mary Jane Cedarface, 1656 North Hubbard Street, and I will try to keep this short, but I agree with every sentiment that has been expressed before me. And some of us came from an HOA meeting before this meeting, and a city patrolman who oversees traffic was there just to address the concerns. If we're trying to enter or leave Cottonwood Ranch in the morning or when school gets out in the afternoon, it can take over half an hour. And there are near misses every day at the 4-way stop by the school at O'Neill and Pueblo, and it's almost impossible. You can wait and wait forever to make a left-hand turn at Cottonwood, and it's just, I don't understand how we can consider adding to the density of that area, especially since the bungalows on the opposite corner of that block have already been approved, and the fencing is up there. And I agree also with the impact on the sight lines and the idea of reducing parking when our streets are already crowded, and then you've got all the parents parking there to drop off and pick up students. So I would hope you could, I'm sorry I missed the June 14th meeting. I was unable to come for public comment, but I wish we could go back and consider changing to 2 stories and not decreasing any parking. Thank you.
Hello, thanks again. Appreciate it. I am Nancy Wood, 513 East Feckle Road, Casa Grande. And the main reason for my coming in this evening for this particular project was that I kind of overlook a lot of the burrowing owls that are living in Casa Grande. And just wanted to let the developer know that there's a large number of burrows and burrowing owls that live on this location, and wanted to let them know that it's been an active area for many, many years, and a lot of the residents appreciate them being on the property and around the area. They're a good asset. They are good pest control for small rodents and other things like that, we want to keep our environment and wildlife as much as we can, even though we're developing and building new things and growing our city. And I was just hoping that also that they might consider, like with the retention area basin, that some of the developers are possibly putting in man-made burrows where rather than having the owls relocated completely out of the city, that there's places for them to assimilate and kind of fit in with the area. Burrowing owls are pretty adaptable. If they got a safe place to have a burrowed place to live, they'll be fine within the city and adapt themselves and be an asset. So that was my main reason for coming, was to let them know about that, and if they had any questions about, whether they needed to contact rescues or anything. There are many people in the state that are willing to help and support anything that's needed. And having driven through that area quite a bit, because I'm not too far from there, and I realize that many of the statements here about the traffic in that area is pretty rough, because the school, the traffic in there at the times when they're going to school and getting out of school, I totally avoid that area. Adding more traffic is just going to make it more difficult. So the density of that area would be an issue. I think it's a wonderful project, great developer, and I appreciate all the work that they've done on it. I think it's the density is an issue. I think you'll have to work that one out, because there's a lot of traffic. Thanks.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak to this agenda item? No? I will close the public portion. Traffic engineer. Thank you for being here again. It seems that current existing traffic is potentially causing issues. And I don't know that, I know we have an incident scenario, but it sounds as if, and I know we have some development coming that may alleviate some of this with other avenues to get out, that we should probably look into traffic safety in this area in regards to the school. Like, we can't implement schools during development, but we can only implement rules to schools if they're causing some sort of hazard. And it sounds like we've got a number of concerned citizens that we have a lot of concern about hazardous situations. Is that something we could look into?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it is not unlikely when there's a school, there are always potential hit or miss. But based on the data that was presented, there was not any significant traffic concern as of now, based on the data. But with this.
Yeah, independent from the developer at this moment, I guess, is just looking into if the school traffic's causing any type of hazardous situation with parking on the side of the road, waiting, exiting, dropping off in the mornings and exiting, because obviously we've got a lot of people that are concerned about traffic. Even if we don't build this, it's obvious that they have concerns about traffic already. And so just looking into that and the current traffic flows and ways that we might be able to work with either the school and or just the developments that are coming in and what those roads look like and how they flow better, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Okay.
And the school district transportation, just the public transport, whoever manages the bus system. 'Cause-
She's having trouble getting buses in now, right?
Well, yeah,
Like, and so,
I
yeah.
think that-
And so we obviously, there's some sort of issue there, right? And if we
Not
may
just
not have
this
enough
school.
incident reports to
Right.
flag it, but it's obvious it's a concern, so maybe we should flag it ourselves and just look into it, if that's all right.
Yes, for sure, but for this school, I don't think they have a school bus system.
No,
No.
she's part of the
Okay.
public
Okay.
transportation,
Okay.
so they
Yeah,
come
she's
and pick
bringing
up.
kids from other schools into
Right.
that neighborhood.
Yeah.
And is having issues with current traffic on streets and lined, yeah, because it's a little bit of a, if you've been through there, I know many of you over here have, so. All right.
You know, along those lines with the traffic for the buses, a lot of those children that are going to be living in those apartments will probably not go to Mission Heights or Legacy School because apartments are a transient type housing arrangements. They will move around, so expecting those kids to be walking to that school and leaving any traffic from that is not going to happen. Those kids are going to be getting on that buses and going to the other schools too, because it's just a constant move around.
Exactly.
So, that school has made a lot of traffic. It's just like GIA over Grandy Innovation. It's a problem over there getting in and out of that school. So, it's just the way it is.
Jacqueline. Or sorry, you were done. I was gonna move on to another topic. Jacqueline, zoning, that area, so this area has come in front of us a number of times. For one, obviously, the single-family rental, we had lots of conversation about traffic then, but we kind of discussed further the other developments and water rights and kind of a number of different things that are around that corner as far as commercial and apartments. Just want to wrap back through kind of the history of that. Does that make sense? Like, it was set up for higher density from day one.
Correct, yes.
When
As
it
part
was-
of the Cottonwood Ranch PAD, it was established as multifamily in 1999.
It was.
Yeah, back in 1999, so we've got, the only difference was the very corner piece, which was considered commercial that we redid.
Correct, and I don't believe that was part of the Cottonwood Ranch PAD.
It may not
That
have
was,
been.
that was
Separate?
separate, where the bungalows are now.
Okay.
In that PAD, the maximum height is the 35 feet? Building height?
So I'll let Paul address this.
So the height is a little bit unique in that the PAD, the Cottonwood PAD, did not establish a maximum height for this multifamily parcel. So there is no height specified in the PAD. Staff looked to the height that's allowed in our R3 multifamily zone district, which is a maximum height of 35, as well as the height in other multifamily PADs, which were 35, and so we felt the applicant's proposal of 35 was acceptable, given the fact that it met the maximum height of our R3 zone district and other PADs. But factually, this PAD has no height standard currently for multifamily.
So is this the same height as the one that we approved on Quartzen and Treckle? Is that the same height too?
On Pert and
No.
Rodeo?
No, court.
No,
Are you referring to the
Quartzen.
Boris project?
No, she's
No.
referring to Agave
Oh,
House.
yeah.
Agave
Oh.
House,
And
Courts
Treckle, yeah.
and Treckle.
Is that the same
Yeah,
height?
I forgot about that one.
Is it R3?
Sorry.
No, you're
Okay.
good. I forgot all
So
about that one.
it would have been, yes. Now, however, because this is a PAD, in our residential PAD design standards, we do have some height standards, which go something like this, is that any multifamily that's within 50 feet of a single family is limited to 28 feet in height. So if it was within 50 feet of the single-family residential zone, it would be limited to 2 stories. But as you can see, the setback from the residential zone district is much greater than 50 feet. So they are allowed to meet the residential design standards at the 35-foot level.
But theoretically, they could have came in and said, we're going to do a 6-story building.
Well,
And you couldn't necessarily stop them because they meet the PAD requirement.
Well, not necessarily. The way we look at it, because the PAD is silent on height, it's not that they're, is that the major site plan review is going to establish the height standard, right? So tonight, whatever decision, if the decision is made to approve this major site plan, it will establish a height standard for this site. of
Assuming they
35
met
feet.
all the other codes, though, right? I understand
Yes.
setbacks and height, building heights, but assume, they could have put one single story in the middle of the property that met all those things. It could have been.
And then that would have been subject to your approval of that height. That's
Right.
true.
Okay.
So could they put on, off of you, like make it higher in the middle and then at the outer edges, make it 2 stories? So they're not overlooking the other houses?
So, okay, good question. So could this site plan be modified so the perimeter ones closest to the Pueblo and O'Neill be 2-story and higher buildings in the middle? That's the
Yeah.
question. Theoretically, I think, yes, that could meet our codes. If that was something that the planning commission would approve, I think that would be an option, an alternative. I don't know if it meets the applicant's
Right.
needs.
I'm just-
If it meets their
I
desires.
know,
Spitballing here. You're just spitballing here.
I'm
you know,
just
we're having
throwing,
a
I'm trying,
conversation.
yeah.
It's okay, everybody. We're just talking.
I'm just throwing it out there trying, you know.
I mean, I agree. I think that building height, I think, needs to come down a little bit.
I do too. You know.
So, do we have a, was it 3-story building, 3-story apartment over on Rodeo? Abuts?
Yes.
The villas, the Rodeo and Pert project?
Nope.
No.
No, existing.
Oh, existing. Yes, those are 3 stories. The Rodeo and.
Yeah.
Pert.
Abuts, single family?
Tierra Point?
Tierra Point, yes.
Yeah. Across the road. Nope. Right next to.
Next to McCartney Ranch.
Okay. Right next to, right? Yeah. And then, is there a 3-story over off of, what is that road?
No, it's commercial.
Butts up against SK
And the other side
Ranch? On the south side?
Oh, Desert Sands.
Is there, are those 2 stories? I don't.
This is right.
This is in the thick of the problem.
I'm not sure what the height of the Desert Sands.
Yeah, I can't remember
one
that
is.
one.
That's the project you're referring
Hang
to.
on, we'll get you your turn.
Jack on there, sorry. If I may, I'm sorry, I don't mean to bump in here. They usually don't allow zoning attorneys to speak, although I'm not one. I work for Gamage and Burnham. We represent Lincoln Avenue Properties. We appreciate the spirited discussion here this evening. And what is being discussed is an existing zoning case, as you've heard from the director. It's an odd-shaped lot. There are some things here that are peculiar to the property. As you can see, there's a large tract that's along our eastern boundary there. There's setbacks that are significant, 245 feet on that end, another 120 feet or more on O'Neill. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. This is a zoning, this is not a zoning case, but, sorry.
Okay, thank you. I haven't called up the applicant, and so
I'm sorry.
we're having
I
an open
just-
discussion with staff, and so
Yeah.
at some point, you'll get your chance.
Oh, I apologize.
So I appreciate it.
Oh, I'm sorry, I got a
Just
little
sit down.
excited, yes.
Thank you. Okay.
Robert. My comments just bring on the discussion. I think that started that.
You're right, everything else.
Sorry, I got it
All right,
started.
so existing precedent, like we have these types of developments, this happens, right? I'm just trying to wrap around, like, we're not doing something new that hasn't been done, existing in the city. Established zoning, existing, high density was there prior to and then address my traffic issue. Yeah? And so, does anybody have any questions for staff?
So, can I do, real quick?
Member Benedict.
Yeah, re-educate me again. So the requirement would be 50 feet and they've got 120.
Correct. If it was within 50 feet, they would be limited to 28 feet, but they exceed that distance, so they can go up higher.
All right. No other questions for staff? All right. I'm gonna give you the floor now.
Oh, there it is, right there on the page you got.
Thanks again. So we really appreciate the neighborhood concerns too. So I just wanted to touch a few of those real quick. Burrowing owls, we are coordinating with people. We'll have temporary relocation for the burrowing owls on site, and we'll be building habitats for them as part of the development, as well to reincorporate them after construction completion. Traffic too for us is a large concern. We knew that coming in, and we're going to do everything we can to work with the city to make sure we can help where we can and what we can do. The traffic study itself does say that during peak hours in the AM, our project's going to develop or increase the traffic by 2.6% of that intersection between O'Neill and Pueblo there.
I'm sorry, what was that number?
2.6%. So
Not 20.
with that too, the views in the yard, I mean, what attracted us to this property and site was the existing entitlements in place. To get developments like these done, these affordable developments are not easy financially, entitlement-wise, and so being able to have this property with the existing zoning in place where twice the setback required to go to 3 stories, we thought that was a great accommodation. We pushed the buildings on the east side as far back as possible. So we've kind of done everything we really, really wanted to make sure this fits in the community, doesn't intrude on the neighbors, and minimizes traffic the best we can. And so with that, I think that's it, but I'm happy to answer more questions that the commission might have.
Any other clarification? No? No? All right. Well, thank you again. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. All right, so with that, heard from staff, the applicant, the public, the applicant again, some more staff, some applicant again. Sorry, I just had to poke a little bit. You're good. You're good. I always give somebody their chance. I was excited. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. So with that, I'll bring it back to the commission. Not all at once.
I know, this is tough.
All right. Yeah, Member Estrada.
Move to approve the PAD Major Amendment DSA 22-00198. As written.
Well done. I have a motion on the floor.
Second.
I have a second on the floor. Thank you.
Sorry, you little
I felt
punch
bad,
in the
man. Yeah,
head.
he just started, he finally steps up and makes a motion. Nobody wanted to second him? All right, so I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Can we do anything to honestly maybe make it lower on the outside, like 2-story and maybe 3 stories? Because honestly, this subdivision was for multifamily, and people purchasing these homes, they thought it was just gonna be multifamily. I worked with a developer in this community.
I think the motion is as presented, so I think we'd have to modify one of
Yeah,
the
you
recommendations.
technically could. You could. Whoa, staff is waving us down. Let's pay attention to what they have to say today.
So just for clarification, the PAD amendment that the motion to approve is related to is only to adjust the parking ratio. It has
Right.
nothing to do with approving the site plan
All
or the
right.
height, right?
Site plan's next.
That's
Right now, we're just talking about parking lots.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just
That's
to
what you're trying to tell
adjust.
me. You're like.
It's just to
Stop
adjust the
listening.
parking
Sorry
ratio.
about that, okay.
Good to go.
So we go with parking.
So
So we got a motion and a second on the floor for the parking,
for the parking
Aspect
for this
of this.
development.
the amendment to the PAD for the parking. We're not talking about building heights, major site plans, nothing like that right now. Just the parking lot.
Yeah.
Okay?
Thank
Any other discussion, clarification?
No.
You got your motion?
I have a motion and a second already.
So my turn, okay.
All right.
So question, clarification, it's probably sitting in front of me, but, so this, we're gonna end up with 544 parking spots inside the development.
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Okay, and that's the magic numbers I'd heard. Thank you very much.
And there's
Okay.
how many units?
Any other discussion?
How many units are
Yeah,
there?
how many units?
300.
300.
300. It's a
And
ratio
how-
of 1.75.
Got it.
So if there's two, okay.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Any other discussion?
Call the question.
Roll call.
Member Vander Hayden.
No.
Member Hubbard.
No.
Member Garza.
No.
Member Peters.
Aye.
Member Estrada.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Benedict.
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Oh. Yes, we're voting on parking. Yeah. We're good. All right.
Man, I'm kind of afraid, but
Motion
I'd like to make a motion.
approved. All right, let's try the next one.
Chairman, I'll make the motion.
Okay, yeah, by all means.
Okay.
Member Garza.
Can you pull up the modifications? Is this the only modification to the major site plan?
Yes, the condition of approval.
All right. Let's see how are we going to do this. What's the two-story building height? Would that be the 28 feet requirement?
You're gonna get intense, aren't you?
I was
She's
just-
going rogue.
I'm
She's
with
going
you.
rogue.
I'm with
I
you.
roll all these sleeves.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we forward a recommendation of major site plan DSA 22.
Wait, we're
Time-
moving
time
to
out.
approve. Doesn't, no forward and
Oh,
recommendation. We're-
okay, moving to approve major
Yeah,
site
We're
plan.
approving it right here.
DSA 22-00150, with the condition of approval mentioned by staff with regards to the traffic information, as well as an amendment to the 35-foot building height to 28 feet.
I second it.
Okay, before we go anywhere else, I'm gonna pan over to legal here.
So
Is it, because I think we've had this conversation before on certain items, there's some things you can kind of amend, and some things you either just have to
Well-
approve or deny.
right, well, the tough part is, we don't have a major site plan with 28 feet. So approving one, we don't know what it'll look like.
Right.
So, you know.
So you can't, you either have to approve it or deny it.
What's the height now?
30
Well, my other question would be, you're expecting, your motion is to have it 28 feet throughout the development?
Yes.
Okay. Not just the edges.
Okay, so you want me to make another motion?
Well, I want to just discuss it. Look, man, this has been fun with motions and removals and all kinds of fun stuff. So,
I'm good with 28 feet.
hang on.
I'm with
But
you.
we
Yeah, but
can't
we
do
don't
that.
have that. So
That
you can
authority.
either, are you going to withdraw, like it's going to, we can't approve something that can't be done.
I have a good motion.
Do you? But I need you guys to withdraw your motions then.
Okay, we
I'll
withdraw.
withdraw.
Okay. All right, so let's start back at big ground one.
So Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we continue the major site plan request to the next meeting of DSA
Table it.
22-150,
Okay.
so that there can be more
Conversation.
conversation. I was looking for
We
the
need some more
word. It's
conversation.
too late.
This guy's been here till 9 o'clock with us. I'm just,
Yeah.
And it'll be different then?
No.
It'll be the same it'll be the same item.
same item, same info.
Same? And
Same.
and then we're gonna go through it
They
again?
could change it if they want, or they can bring it back the same.
Exactly, yeah.
Either way.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
I don't currently know that I have one. I know I have a motion on the floor
Okay. I can make a third motion.
with no second. Motion fails.
I'd like to
Okay.
make a motion,
Okay,
Mr. Chair.
please.
Move to approve major site plan request DSA-22-00150 with the following conditions of approval that were set by staff prior to the submittal of the public improvement
Okay,
permits.
I have a motion,
I'll second it.
I have a second. Any other discussion? Will you please call the roll?
Member Vanderhayden.
No.
Member Hubbard.
No.
Member Garza.
No.
Member Peters.
Aye.
Member Estrada.
Yes.
Vice Chair Benedict.
Yeah, this was quite a meeting and I'm struggling with these. Yes, I'm gonna talk.
It's just not
I
surprised.
have.
You have the floor.
To do that. I appreciate the efforts that the developer's making and going beyond the requirements. And I certainly hate to restrict any of our rights to be able to do what we like with our property. And so I have to vote yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you for your input. Where are we at here? 7? Yeah, Spanish Trails.
Interesting.
Yeah.
This one's interesting. This is the 55 plus, right?
This is the greatest last meeting ever.
You know, when I
We're doing it on
started, my
purpose,
very
Robert.
first meeting, we
We're gonna
held
be
this
here till
all night.
midnight.
I know.
I can't wait to see who's gonna fill your spot.
Yeah.
My last motion will be to nominate Celeste
It's gonna be
Garza.
real exciting when we have our new chairman over there.
That's right.
All right. Next up. Consider forwarding a recommendation to City Council for requests by the WLB Group for DSA-22-000075 for Spanish Trails Planned Area Development Major Amendment.
All right, this request is for the Spanish Trails PAD, which is a manufactured home park located at Casa Grande Avenue between Viola and O'Neill. This request is to add 6 additional spaces, bringing the total from 195 to 201, and the additional spaces will be located in the highlighted area at the southwest corner of the site. So in regards to the PAD review criteria with the general plan, the site was previously approved under the 2020 General Plan Neighborhoods Land Use category, which limited the density to 4.5 dwelling units per acre. The initial proposal was for 203 spaces, however, did not meet the general plan density requirements, so this was revised to 195. However, since then, the site has been classified into the community corridor land use category under the 2030 general plan, which allows for density up to 25 dwelling units per acre. So the additional 6 spaces will bring the new density to 4.75 dwelling units per acre. With regard to notification, staff and the applicant met or exceeded those requirements. I did receive one inquiry regarding the proposal. It was just understanding what the request was for. It wasn't negative or positive. So with that, staff recommends to move forward a recommendation of approval to City Council for the Spanish Trails Planned Area Development PD Amendment Request DSA 22-0075 with the following condition of approval. Happy to answer any questions Commission may have.
Questions for staff? No? All right. Applicant, representative? Thanks for being here and being patient all night. Man. It's been entertaining, hopefully, at least.
Yes, it has.
All right, good. Good.
I'm Peter Holden. I work with the current owner of Spanish Trails West. Thanks for your time tonight. Thank you, Jacqueline, for your explanation of everything. Any questions I can help answer?
Questions? No? No? But
Thanks.
thanks for being here.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. All right, at this time, then I'll open it up to the public, even though most of the public, I think, left. That's all right. I'll close the public portion. Bring it back to the commission.
Mr. Chairman,
Member Peters.
unless there's any other discussion, I'll make a motion that we forward a recommendation to City Council to approve the Spanish Trails Pad Amendment Request DSA-22-00075 with the following condition of approval stated by staff.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Shall please call
All
the
right.
roll.
Member Vanderhayden.
Yes.
Member Hubbard.
Yes.
Member Garza.
Yes.
Member Peters.
Aye.
Member Estrada.
Aye.
Vice Chair Benedict.
Yep.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. All right. Next, we're going to hold a public hearing and consider forwarding a recommendation to City Council for the request by the City of Casa Grande.
Yes. So this next request is to allow major general plan amendments to occur twice in the calendar year and to expand the minor general plan amendments from 10 acres to 5 acres. So under the current general plan, major amendments are only allowed once a calendar year. Staff is making changes to take advantage of the recently updated state law and proposing major general plan amendments to occur twice a year, calendar year, with a cycle running January to June and July through December. And staff felt this was sufficient due to the extensive processing requirements required for a major general plan amendment. As you know, they require 2 public hearings, one held off-site, and there's a 60-day review by applicable reviewing agencies. So in addition to this, staff is also recommending to expand the minor general plan amendments from 10 acres to 50 acres. As you know, these are processed in conjunction with zone change requests that would also go to Planning Commission. And staff feels that with expanding the minor general plan, it would also help in reducing the amount of major general plan amendment requests as well. So we did do the notification efforts. I did not receive any comments on that. So with that, Planning Commission recommend to move forward a recommendation of approval to City Council for the minor general plan and text amendment to expand the minor general plan amendments from 10 acres to 50 acres and allow major general plan amendments to occur twice a calendar year. So happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Questions for staff? Slash applicant. No? All right. Open it up to the public. Anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? No? I thought you came back just for this one. I'll close the public portion, bring it back to the commission.
Chairman, I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
To forward a recommendation of approval to City Council for the minor general plan text amendment DSA 22-00210 to expand minor general plan amendments from 10 to 50 acres and allow major general plan amendments to occur twice in a calendar year.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Member Vanderhayden.
Yes.
Member Hubbard.
Yes.
Member Garza.
Aye.
Member Peters.
Aye.
Member Estrada.
Yes.
Vice Chair Benedict.
Aye.
Chairman Miller.
Aye. Yes? Just gotta mix it up all through the night. I just jump back and forth, you know. All in favor say yes. I don't know, that sounds weird. All right. Next up, we have a call to the public.
Hello?
Closing the public portion, moving on. Reports by planning director. Or motion.
There were no site plans administratively approved last month. There were no Board of Adjustment decisions. City Council did act on 10 recommendations forwarded to them by the Planning Commission. and including a request for a subdivision variance, your general plan, major amendments to your general plan, and several rezonings. All council concurred with your recommendation on all of those and approved them. In terms of your report for building permits that's been attached in your land use projects, I just will note that in October, for the first time in a long time, we actually issued a building permit for two small apartment buildings, 2 fourplexes, it looks like. So we do have some apartments, some small ones right now under construction in the community. And that's it for reports.
All right.
I move to adjourn.
Second. Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.